Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sweet Space on the Spooky Month. We've done it this month so that the interpretation is that the Sweet Space is actually the space in which the sweets are given, which is Halloween, which is today, as of when we're uploading this. So I get to skirt the responsibility of uploading this in the center of the month. Instead, I did To Be Hungry X, or To Be Hunger X, the Hunger Games with all the To Be Hero X characters. Kevin still needs to watch that. Speaking of Kevin, today we have Kevin, aka American Elephant, aka Elephant Power Productions, who we've had on multiple times before on this podcast. And today we're going to be talking about horror, and we're going to be talking about two very fantastic horror shows of very different nature. Midnight Mass and Over the Garden Wall. Now, both of these have been glazed to hell and back, and for very good reason, and we're going to talk about why we think that glaze is very well deserved. So without further ado, Kevin, you may introduce yourself and, talk a little bit about yourself, give a basic background to the people who haven't been keeping up with the lore and haven't seen the other podcasts. Go ahead, I'm unmuting you. I'm unmuting you now.
Yeah, sure. How's it going? I'm Kevin Terbeek. I go by American Elephant. I'm a video essay creator technically, but more so I'm a animator. I haven't done a ton of animations for my channel yet, but I have been busy working on short film recently, so that's been a lot of fun. And yeah, on the side, I like to make video essays for a series called Kev Talks, where I talk about what I want to talk about. It's part of the whole brand. Speaking of a little self promotion, just to get it out of the way, I will be posting the next episode of it on this Friday on Halloween. It'll be
Which
a
is also the day in
top
which
10.
this podcast comes
Sorry.
out, incidentally. This is kind of like an unofficial collaboration.
Yes, yes, and I will be linking this when it drops in the replies of my Halloween video.
Yep.
It's a top 10 animated villains list, a subject that I'm very passionate about. I even took one time in college, there was an option for an elective called The Art of Villainy. It was a fun class where we got to talk about animated villains. I chose that for one of my, for like, I think my second to last or one of my last summer terms or classes. So that was a lot of fun. But because I'm passionate about the project, this is going to be my longest video now. It is just over an hour and 36 minutes long compared to my other videos, which are like half an hour or 40 minutes at most. This is a bit of a jump for sure. Granted, not Quentin Review's 42 hours levels of insanity, but
One of
definitely
these
up there.
days.
So
The
yeah, I'm very
platonic
excited
ideal
about
of
that.
being a video essayist is that you get to release a ridiculously long video every year and then fuck off for the rest of it.
I'd love to get to that point as like I make animation. I'd love to get to that point with my channel where right now it's the video essays are the main draw, but then it evolves into animation as the main draw, and the video essays are like like you said, just drop one, maybe two, maybe even three, like just big video essays each year, and then just fuck off for 5 months when I'm not animating.
I know, that would
But
be the
yeah, I'm very.
dream. The true
Oh my
H-Bomber
gosh,
Guy core experience.
I'm kind of working on a video that's not quite that, but I want it to be sort of a similar vibe in terms of like the discussion points and the energy. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. It won't be out for a while, but yeah. So I'm but yeah, with the shows we're going to be talking about today, I am a big fan of both. I like one more than the other personally, but I think they're both fantastic and. Yeah, I'm just excited. I love it. It's funny. I'm not a horror person in a traditional sense, but I love spooky shit. I love kids' cartoons that like have Halloween episodes or go dark or do creepy shit. And I love, and
Speaking
then more
of,
recently, I've actually started.
speaking of creepy shit, I just changed the background of this episode, so now it's the spooky Halloween colors instead of my typical channel colors.
Oh, excellent.
I can
Good.
actually
Yeah,
show you
you gotta keep
the
that.
new image.
Yeah, gotta keep that brand synergy.
Many are
Um,
saying.
but
Many are saying that's the word on the streets.
yes, but yeah, with the where was I going with this? Yeah, with more recently, I have started getting into some more horror content a little bit. I've seen now, some movies and shows that are a little on the spookier side. I've seen all the Jordan Peele horror films. So I've seen Get Out, Us, and Nope. I was surprised to hear that his fourth film has been taken off like what was it, Paramount or like whoever's film slate. I was like, damn, what's that all about?
Sorry, what's his fourth
Um,
film again?
uh, it was I don't know the name of it, but Jordan Peele had a fourth horror film in development, but it got removed from the film slate for whatever company he was making it with. I think either Universal. Oh yeah, it's got to be Universal because Peele has done Halloween Horror Nights collabs
Uh-huh.
at Universal Studios with them. Okay, yeah.
Right. Okay, but
Um,
I
but yeah,
thought okay.
Universal removed it.
Not to be confused with
Sorry.
Him, which is not a Jordan Peele movie. It's just produced by Jordan Peele.
Oh yeah, yeah, that one just produced, which I've unfortunately haven't heard good things about it, even though I thought the
No, me
trailer
neither.
seemed
Yeah,
kind of interesting.
the
But
trailer did seem interesting and the concept seemed interesting, but like yeah, no, that movie got the opposite of glaze. To say the least.
yeah, but in this case, I've been so yeah, I've seen those. I've seen like I've seen a handful of like little spook. I mean, I like Stranger Things, which has a lot of horror elements to it. So I've kept up with that show. But also recently, I watched the Zach Cregler film debut, Barbarian, which I thought was very good, very messed up and takes a second to understand what it's going for, but
Oh, you
it
will
is a
like Weapons
very
then. I haven't seen Barbarian, but Weapons is the same director. I think his name is actually Zach Krager, no L, but that's a minor
okay,
correction.
yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, I've been honestly, I've been saying to myself like I wanted to watch Sinners by the end of October. Honestly, I might switch it up because I heard Weapons is on Netflix. So I might watch Weapons tomorrow afternoon and then do Sinners in November. I'll have to see.
oh, you know
But
what? Sinners,
yeah,
I still have to get around to watching Sinners. That's one of my biggest regrets, not watching Sinners in theaters.
mm, yeah, that's one of those big blockbuster movies like Nope, where I was like, I have a feeling where when I watch it, I'm gonna be like, man, if I saw this in theaters, shit.
Yeah, no, Sinners has got to be, from everything I've heard, one of the best movies of the year. I'd even say I'd give it 20 stars if I could.
Yeah, from everything I've heard, it's just, and it's Ryan Coogler, so I'm already there because
Right,
of the
yeah.
Black Panther stuff that he's done, and yeah, point is, again, not a horror person, but I do like when shit
Probably the
gets
best movie
scary.
of my lifetime. Probably the best movie of my lifetime. I would watch it a third time if I could.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to see if I feel that way, but at the very least, I will say as
I haven't
well,
seen it.
one of the
I'm
things,
just referencing Get Out.
kind of, yeah, but oh yeah, oh
It took you
God.
a moment and then it hit you.
Yeah, but yeah, to kind of segue into the conversation of what we're going to talk about, one of the series that has helped me start experiencing more like horror and creepy media is one of the ones we'll be talking about, Midnight Moss. When I first watched that, that was kind of one of my first big horror things I tried to go out of my way to watch on Netflix.
I
And
love the pronunciation difference between like Midnight Mass and Midnight Moss because every time I hear Midnight Moss, I'm like, I'm just picturing like a bunch of moss like growing on a cemetery in the middle of the night or something.
yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
mean, make a horror movie out of
I,
that.
And now when I hear Midnight Mass, I'm gonna think
Like
of like, oh, just meat, like
midnight moss is just like growing on your skin. That's a terrifying concept, actually. You know what? I made fun of it a
yeah,
moment
that
ago,
sounds
but
like
that's low key.
fucking sounds like Goosebumps Monster Blood.
Oh,
You've heard
absolutely.
you've heard of Midnight Mass. Well, now it's time for Midnight Massive, and it's just like
Midnight Massive.
the shittiest ninja memes you can think of.
That's awesome.
I still find it so funny that the first time I heard about Ninja's fucking low taper fade meme was in an edit of it with audio saying like, the low taper fade meme is still like massive. And that was the first fucking time I'd ever heard of it. Like, what do you mean, Ninja? I've never heard of this meme, and you're talking about it like it's the capybara craze or fucking God, even 6'7" has had more of an impact, I think, than the low taper fade meme, which, to be
That's
fair, makes
awesome.
me cringe.
You know what?
It kind of.
No, okay, yeah, it does. Same here, but I think it's funny in some senses because my mom is a French teacher. This is an interesting little tidbit. My mom is a French teacher. All of her students now say 6'7" because that's the craze. And she was like, "You only get to say this if you say it in French." So now everyone's like, "C set."
That's good. Teach them something while weaponizing the brain rot. I'm in support of that, actually. That's really smart.
Yeah, no, that is the right approach right there.
Yeah. God, can you imagine what Germa has to put up with? Germa's a teacher, and I can only imagine dealing with
Sometimes
the
I
fucking
forget
brain.
that. That's such an insane fact. Like,
It's so funny too, because my way of finding out about this was that fucking clip where he's like, when you're in charge of a bunch of kids in a classroom, all you got to do is walk in and go, and then he just makes like a bunch of Morse code noises that I can't even
how the
recreate because they're
fuck
like
does
so
Sherma
high
even do
pitched.
that? Like, how is he not like a famous voice actor at that point?
I don't know. His vocal cords are really weird,
He
I guess,
literally
but
sounds like he could be like the sound effects provider in an old Looney Tunes cartoon.
yes, he does. He sound like that shit he does as a meme. It
Like,
sounds like it could be like a tiny character.
those people who like post videos of themselves doing like these wild dances that could be like used as reference footage for like Dracula in
Yeah.
Hotel Transylvania or something. Like, it's the
All
vocal
those
version of
memes.
that.
Have you seen the one of like the guy like doing push-ups that make it look like he's humping, and there's
Oh
text
my
that says
god,
like this is what
yes, I've
this
seen
is
that. That's awesome.
what Dracula looked like in bed.
Hello, John. Haha, Jonathan. I am banging.
Oh God. Oh man.
Shit.
Oh, anyway,
Yeah, that's a
before I
that's a
choke.
Dracula is technically a, well, not in Hotel Transylvania, he's not really a villain, but um in general mythology, Dracula is one of the biggest Halloween villains.
Oh
So that
yeah.
brings us to the
Wasn't
topic.
isn't he
I
based
know,
on like isn't he based on like a real Romanian like horrifying warlord named like
yes, Vlad the Impaler. Yes,
Hmm.
that's correct.
Yeah,
Speaking of people named
so
Vlad, speaking of people named Vlad, you got another terrifying villain around this month. Vladimir Kramnik. Are you familiar with Vladimir Kramnik?
I don't know if I've heard that name, and if it's
This
a
is this
lore
is
thing for you,
chess. This is chess master lore. I'm not really that into chess, but there were a couple moist critical videos about this guy. So basically,
Hmm,
Vladimir Kramnik is a game master of chess, and there's another
okay.
guy who recently passed away at the age of 29. Really sad. Daniel Naroditsky, famous game master. Kramnik
Yeah,
was
rest in peace.
constantly accusing him baselessly of cheating, and then kept accusing him after his death, and then said if people had looked into this, it could have been prevented because he was clearly struggling from some sort of like guilt, or I'm not 100% sure what Kramnik said. And if I try to claim that I am, I might get sued for defamation. What I will say, and
Uh,
I don't think I'll get sued for this, I think Kramnik is a fucking asshole.
huh. Okay.
Because that's an
Well, good to
opinion.
know.
That is not a defamatory statement. I just think he sucks. It's like it's not a
Nice.
good. It's really not a good day for the Vladimirs, or a good any for the Vladimirs, because I only tend to hear about bad people with the name Vladimir. You got Putin, you got Kramnik, you got man. I mean, are there any good? I'm trying to think of good Vlads off the top of my head. If
There
I
is a more there is a morally gray Vladimir that I know about technically from of all places Horton Hears a Who. There's the
really?
There's
That's good.
yes, in Horton Hears a Who, like when the kangaroo character, the sour kangaroo who doesn't like
Oh yeah,
Horton carrying the clover, she sends a bird after him named Vladikov. So that is technically a
that's
Vladimir.
awesome.
Mind you, in the movie, Vlad was just like doing a solid for a friend. By the end, he's like he's chill.
Yeah,
He's
no,
cool with
he's
it.
he's good.
Even though
I
technically
think I
he
vaguely
almost
remember that.
committed
It's been ages since
he
I.
almost technically he almost committed genocide by earthquake by dropping the clover out of the sky, but still it's
Right.
something
Yes.
there.
I mean, don't we all do that?
Yeah, and to be fair, he was manipulated into thinking that there wasn't anything on the clover or the speck of the
That's true.
clover. He
Yes. No,
just
I was gonna say that he probably didn't know that. Um.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
the sour kangaroo mindset of if
Yeah.
you can't see, hear,
Vladikov has beaten
or
the allegations.
yes, Vlad has beaten the alligator. He joined the musical number at the very
Many
end of the
people are
movie. He's
saying.
fine.
Yep. 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 Unlike the other Vlad, who is very much not off the hook for his massacres. Or the other Vlad, which is Vlad the Impaler. What
The
other
Virgin
good
Vlad the
what other good Vladimirs are there? If I say Lenin, I'm gonna get so many like comment farms in underneath this video. There's gonna be like several different like Twitter factions coming to debate each other, and I'm gonna get boosted in the algorithm. But I'm not gonna say that because I don't feel like it. Um,
well,
Maybe
I typed
Vladimir
in
Guerrero Jr., who's like a player for the Blue Jays. I don't
I
think
typed
I
in
think he's
fictional
pretty cool. I guess I don't really
I
watch
typed in
sports, but
I typed in fictional Vladimirs and all I'm getting is Dracula articles. So
yeah,
it's
that makes sense.
not having. Oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
the guy from Dune. Forgot that's what his name was.
Wait, what was
Um
who again? Which one was called Vladimir?
the super big guy, Baron Vladimir
Oh, Baron
Hartman.
Harkonnen. Right. I like the idea that like 10,000 years into the future, or however long, I think it's 20,000, however long from now, Dune is set, the name Vladimir is just still there, perfectly unchanged. Like that's just lasted
Yeah,
all this time.
that's pretty
I
great.
mean, I guess
Oh, there is
Paul
a
also has, so like it's not that unusual.
looks like there's a cool UK sci-fi artist named Vladimir Menyukin. So or Menyukin.
Yeah, no, I'm
So
sure there's plenty
that's
of I'm sure there's plenty of good people named Vladimir. I was just thinking of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because the Jays have been on a generational streak over in Canada. I have been hearing about it endlessly in this household. I swear to fuck, my family, who is like entirely sports people except for me, have been raving about
ah
it for ages because we're Canadians. They're the only team we have. It's called the World Series, but it's just American teams and one Canadian team.
huh.
That's it for us, and
Well, good for the
we haven't gotten this
good,
far since the
good for the
'90s.
Jays. America deserves to get its ass kicked every now and then, and I say that as an
Especially
American.
now.
So yes, especially now. We seriously, please, somebody help us, please. We know. Don't get me wrong. There's more of us than them, but we're either too afraid or too stupid to do good shit. We need assistance. Anyway, but yeah, with
I'm the
so shall
emotional
we
support
get
Canadian of this of this podcast.
emotional support Canadian? I'm gonna
Many are
use
saying,
that.
many are saying indeed.
God, God, could you imagine if I introduced you that way to some of my friends
He's
in
my
like
emotional
any
support
friends?
Canadian. It's
I'm
like
like, yo, this
it's
is
like an
Noah.
emotional
He's
support
my
animal,
emotional
except it's
support.
a Canadian.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
that's
This
awesome. Yeah, you need to
now
start
I'm
doing
thinking
that.
and now I'm thinking of this joke from a Randy Feltface special where he's talking about like how he's so behind on the dates of a lot of his friends. So he does a bit where it's like, this is our son Jacob. He's a year old now, or he's 6 now, and then he goes, "Fucking didn't even know you were pregnant."
That's awesome. Oh man,
But
yeah, my dad said that he might not be alive for the next time the Jays get this far. That is how insanely rare this is. The Maple Leafs are
Damn.
still struggling. They haven't got. I say we as if I'm on that team. I'm not. I'm not even a sports
Yeah,
player.
it's actually
We
scary how well that kind of parallels my family. My
the
family are
Maple
big Cubs
Leafs.
players,
The
and
Maple Leafs
like
haven't
when
won the Stanley
they
Cup
went to the
since
World Series in
'67. I'm sorry. I'll let
2016,
you go.
my mother and her brother like went there to watch it at a family member's house, and it was like this amazing deal for that, especially because my grandfather was a big Cubs fan as well, and he passed away a while ago. So yeah, in a weird way, I sympathize and totally understand your dad's perspective on the Jays W's as of late.
Yeah, no. Many are saying word is in the streets. I saw a bus the other day where the tagline on the bus was just "Go Jays, go." It's crazy. That's what living in the Greater Toronto area does to motherfuckers. Like the mania gets crazy when one of our teams actually wins. Of course,
I'm very
as I
curious
was
to see.
saying, the Maple Leafs have not won the Stanley Cup since literally 1967. Like it has been
Damn.
almost 60 solid years. And
I wonder. I wonder
I'm not holding out hope for that to change. That's our hockey team, by
the
the way.
sports energy. I've only been in Colorado for 2 months now. I wonder what the sports energy is going to be like if a sports season comes by. I don't know the teams here really because I'm not really a sports person, or at least a competitive sports person. Like I'll play like tennis and baseball every now and then, but like actual competitive stuff is not really my scene. At the very least, I do know this. If we got enough sports fans, we Americans could probably take back this whole country. If we could bring like the
No,
same
that's
fucking
true. That's
energy,
true.
dude, have you seen those Side Talk NYC videos of Knicks fans like freaking the fuck out when they win and just having the craziest street parties ever? They'll just be like grabbing microphones, swearing up a storm, talking so much shit against Miami. One of my absolute favorites is a dude who went up to a microphone and said, "Yo, I want to thank Cuomo." Psych! It's so
That's
New Yorkers
awesome.
are amazing
Yeah,
when they
New
get shit
Yorkers are
right.
some of the best people I've ever seen when it comes down to it. Um,
Yeah, they're also
in
fucking
some
crazy
ways.
when it comes to sports. So
Yeah,
we need
that
more New
makes complete
Yorkers.
sense. I think if you're going to start like a sports revolution, you want to have the Celtics as the soldiers, the Commanders as the well, you figure,
Yeah.
and the Saints as the people who build the state after the fact.
We need all we need to do is all Donald Trump needs to do is like ban a Knicks game and we have our country back. I'm
That's so real.
convinced.
That's actually so real. Like the moment he touches the sports, he's gonna be fucked.
Oh yeah, 100%. I hope so, frankly. That'd be amazing. Cause something stupid is gonna be what and like puts it
That's
over
what
the edge. And I
Mamdani
can't
has to do if he wins. Like if Trump like threatens to like deport him or some shit, which a lot of people in my circle are saying that he might. Like imagine he's just like, you have to go through the Knicks to get to me, and then it's just like a Mexican standoff. Like
Oh my god, that'd be the
the
best thing
moment he
ever,
pulls the
dude.
trigger, it's just like the
We
end
know
of his entire
we
regime.
know Americans we know Americans are capable of stupid shit like
It's like a
stupid shit
fucking
that's
JoJo
toppling
battle
governments.
where like he's like outsmarting the president with like chess moves.
Oh my god, I'm now imagining like like an army in the style of like Avengers Endgame, but it's like New Yorkers, specifically Knicks fans. Then you mix like all the other protesters, and then you add in the people in like
Yeah, you
animal
can't forget
suits.
about.
Like
Yeah, I was about to bring up the frog.
yeah. God, fuck it. Owen Dennis was the creator of Infinity Train was ahead of his time. He calls himself frogs and hats on his on his platforms. So
Yeah,
he
don't
was ahead of
forget
the
that the
curve
world
without
was
even.
saved. That the world was saved by frogs in Amphibia. So like they were also ahead of their
That's
time.
true. That's also true. Yeah, Amphibia Amphibia continues to be based
Also
100%.
specifically California, which is probably one of the states that's being clamped down on the most. So like if that
Yeah.
energy could be replicated in New York, we get the fucking frogs
Shit,
from Amphibia.
yeah, keep that same fucking energy. I'm
I
all
think
for
Hop
it.
Pop could solo Trump. Well, solo implies
Oh
that
my
he could
god,
beat
dude.
more than one battle, so I'd say he could solo Trump's entire cabinet.
We know he's capable of at least making it in a boxing ring. So there's no way he can't like throw some
Oh yeah,
shit
you're
at that
right, and
idiot.
he's and against elected officials too, because he was
He's-
going up against Mayor Toadstool.
That's true. Yeah, he did go up. Hell, Mayor Toadstool would be better than Trump at this point. Yeah, he's a bit
Yeah,
greedy, but
Mayor
like,
Toad still had a redemption arc.
yes, exactly. So
He
there's
became
clearly
Comrade
avenues there.
Toadstool.
Anyway, shall we finally get to
Yeah,
discussing the shows?
we should. Speaking of animated shows with a very nice vibe, although I would
Yes.
say they have different vibes, but they're still both nice vibes for the most part. We should
Hmm.
probably get started with Over the Garden Wall. That's the one I've watched most recently, and it's the one that you probably have the most memory of, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I've definitely I've watched the show multiple times now, for sure. I watched it when it premiered, and I've rewatched it every like fall, at least these last 2 years, including this year now. So yeah, definitely fully memorized with Over the Garden Wall. Just finished rewatching it last night actually with family member. So all good on that front.
Yep. Well, it's very easy rewatch too, considering how short it is. Like, I imagine it wouldn't be hard to like if I wanted to rewatch the other one, Midnight Mass. It would take a little bit of it would take a little bit of time because the episodes of that are so long. Like one episode of Midnight Mass is basically half of Over the Garden Wall.
Yes, correct. Yeah, it's a very different in terms of a lot of factors for both like the target demographic, the length of the episodes, even
Yeah,
the genre a little. Because I'll say I think I wouldn't consider Over the Garden Wall. I think it is in a way it is technically like it is a spooky series, but kind of in the same way that Gravity Falls is, where it's
I
a
wouldn't
balance of
classify it
like
as outright horror. I do think it has some horror elements, which is why we're even talking about it on this podcast. But I
absolutely.
wouldn't classify it as strictly horror. Whereas with Midnight Mass, that's horror.
Yes, for sure. But that said, that both still definitely fit whether through horror or vibes, they still fit the fall energy 100%. So
Yeah,
very
many
excited to
people are
discuss
saying.
them.
Indeed.
All right, so what shall we get started with? Shall we describe how we're gonna do this again, similar to
Yeah, I
the
suppose so. Why
K-pop
not?
Demon Hunter ones? Um, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm just checking
I guess we talk
notifications.
about just the general like stories and characters and then we kind of like ping pong back and forth boomerang style. Um I think with Over the Garden Wall, starting with like the basic characters and setting and plot is not that much of a. It's not really a Herculean task or a Heraclean task if you're a Greek. Um, I don't
Yeah,
think that's difficult because like the series is so
yeah,
like conceptually simple and also quite simple in its execution, despite being done so well. Like I could knock out an explanation of Over the Garden Wall's main premise in a couple sentences. To prove I can do that, I'm going to do it right now. There are these brothers,
yeah.
Wirt and Greg. They go into a forest. No, they don't go into a forest. That's wrong. Through some circumstances, they end up in this like unknown place with like a bunch of like anomalous animals and places. A lot of them are like creepy, kind of like vaguely horror themed. There's a bird called Beatrice that they meet up with and they form an alliance with. Um, there's a bit of like interpersonal drama, and then they go beat up like this evil forest spirit that has like a lamp that it's inside of. And there's also like an old guy who wants his daughter back. There you go. That's the
Yeah,
basic premise.
I guess we should also
I didn't
say
do it much
I guess we should
justice,
also
but
say spoiler warning, obviously, if that's not already in the title of this
yeah,
video.
that's a given when we're going to talk about these things. Yeah, to the extent I was definitely oversimplifying and I wasn't completely telling the truth with everything here, but certainly some aspects of it are true. And with that being said, you definitely want a spoiler warning for like some of the more specific stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so yeah, the premise of, like you just summarized pretty much, premise of Over the Garden Wall, Two brothers, Greg and Wirt, wander this place they get lost in called the Unknown. It has a like early America. It has an early American colonies setting to it
Yes, I did
with the
notice
like
that. Yeah.
East Coast forests and vibe. And along the way, they learn more about themselves, face all sorts of dangers. Yeah, there's not much. There's not a ton to say aside from getting into the specifics, but like you said, we're going to ping pong a little bit in terms of talking about broad topics. So I guess do we want to go over what Midnight Moss's core premise is essentially now,
Sure,
or
why not? I want to see you try to
yeah, so,
summarize that because I was the one who did it for Over the Garden Wall, except you did it better, so whatever.
yeah, well, yeah. So, well, I'm curious as well. You could probably do it better after me as well because
Yep,
again,
probably,
I'm
but
fresh on Over the Garden Wall. It's probably
that's all
been a
right
few
though.
years since I've seen Midnight Moss in full, but I remember a lot of the
Yeah,
core points of it. So, um, essentially, here's my best summary of it. The series follows. I mean, it follows a lot of different characters, but just to start simple. The series follows a young man named Riley who is returning home to a fishing island where his family lives under poor circumstances. He has just been released from jail after a drinking and driving incident where he got somebody killed, a young girl, in the process. And now he's returned home essentially because it's basically what he's got. He's just going back home because that's the option he's been granted. And however, his return home is timed with something interesting. The fishing village that he goes to, this island, is very religious. Its community very like all congregates at church every week. One of the most influential figures is um, is a woman named Beth, who is
it's
a
not Beth, it's
bitch, but
Bev,
that's
but um,
oh Bev,
it's short
yeah,
for
Bev
Beverly,
Keen.
but
That
yes, Bev
yeah,
Keen.
sorry, I'm trying. I'm looking at the IMDb trying to
I
remember character
initially
names.
categorized Bev Keen as one of the single most generational glazers I've ever seen in television, and I realized that she was the one who was trying to get the power for herself. But that's a minor detail. Yes, Bev
Yeah,
Keen is an absolutely
but so
detestable character, but the actor behind her does a fantastic job. But that's not a
oh
big
yeah,
observation
un-
because the acting in the show is just fantastic across the board. Sorry, go
yes,
on.
for sure. So when around the time Riley returns home, it's revealed that the church now has a new, well, like I guess head honcho in it, if you will, named
The priest.
Father Paul. And yeah, priest. Sorry, I'm still blanking on. Not blanking. My brain just bounces all over the place. And at first, the story is basically this: Father Paul is here to replace the previous priest, an old man, Monsignor Pruitt, who seems to have just like taken time away due to something going on. Nobody knows yet what that is, but simply put, Father Paul's here to stay.
Yep.
And following this, a ton of change comes to this island town for both better and worse. Because on the one hand, you have Father Paul seeming to make a genuinely good impact on the citizens, and a lot of good stuff coming out of like new relationships being formed and developments occurring. On the other hand, things start going wrong as well. Animals start dying around the island from mysterious causes that nobody can fully explain. Riley believes one night that he sees Monsignor Pruitt on the beach, but if Monsignor Pruitt's not around, like, well, then what the hell's going on? And slowly but surely, it's again, where is it okay if I kind of jump to the spoilers a little, or do you want me to keep things ambiguous before we go more
No,
in
go ahead.
depth?
I already gave a spoiler warning, so I don't think anyone's going to care at this point. If you're already at this point and you're worried about spoilers, you should have turned back the first time I said it. But if you really want to turn
Yes, I
back, definitely do it now.
yeah, so yeah, full final spoilers for Midnight
Big
Moss, a
time
show on
spoiler warning.
Netflix
This is
that
a midnight massive spoiler warning.
yes, a midnight massive spoiler warning for a show that I highly recommend you watch. So turn away now.
You
Last call.
absolutely,
Oh,
you absolutely want to watch this show, 100%.
yes. Okay. This is the twist. It turns out Father Paul is Monsignor Pruitt. However, he's been significantly de-aged due to the actions of a supposed angel that he met on a quest off in a faraway part of the world. However, because of the angel's behavior with how it purifies its victims through draining their blood, it's also easy to say that this angel is basically a vampire. And it's revealed throughout the series that Father Paul is trying to guiltlessly turn the people of this island into vampires over to his side, as he believes this vampire to be like the angel, a true angel from the Bible, due to his experience with it and how it restored this life for him. Obviously, though, there's a lot of problems with that, mainly how not only has Father Paul been killing cats on the island and draining their blood to sustain himself, either that or the angel has,
I
so
think it
that's
was the
already a big
angel
problem.
because they
Okay,
showed
yeah,
that
but
they showed that Paul was very 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 reluctant to actually start eating people. In fact, like the first time he did, which was Joe Colley, like he genuinely didn't know that he was going to do that. And he seemed surprised at the craving. Um, like
yeah,
he
yeah,
did not intentionally kill him. Well, I guess he did, but like in the beginning he never intended to. It was very much a spur of the moment temptation thing. And it's implied that he was very like hesitant about like the whole process of eating and killing things. Um I'm pretty sure he
yeah.
never
Now,
actually became like a full-on vampire until like that moment that he like died and resurrected at the end of episode 3. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it was all the way back in that cave when he first became Father Paul, I suppose. It's I guess it's a bit up for interpretation. I might have to do a rewatch, but the point is, I don't think it was him who was killing the cats. I think that was just the angel.
okay, yeah, but okay, yeah, good to be reminded of that. But yeah, so
Well, I
essentially,
shouldn't call it an
despite
angel.
Paul's
That
best,
motherfucker is a demon. I'm not even
oh
religious, but
yeah,
that motherfucker is not an angel.
yeah,
I don't know who
I
sent
wouldn't
it,
even
but it is not God.
yeah, I don't even think I think it's more interesting if the angel deity, quote unquote, isn't even. I think it's more interesting if it isn't even religious. What if it's just something else entirely
Yeah, a friend of
that's
mine had that
co-opting this?
interpretation. Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Um,
My
but
That's
yeah,
my literal
through
read.
this
Yeah.
through
Sorry,
the
go on.
framing device of this religious island, we learn a lot about the different people that are present on it, and a lot of their struggles end up either culminating into the fold of or time well with the climax of the show as Paul and Bev in collaboration with this demon begin to spread, or vampire in my case, I'm going to call it a vampire, spread their influence a lot more over the island to essentially create a new, you know, a new perspective on the world, and not necessarily to create like a master race, so to speak, but there's undertones there, I'd say, with not only Bev, as she's a racist and Islamophobe, but also, the whole like blood thing. It's interesting. Vampires are compelling villains, I feel, because when you think about it, under the right circumstances, the whole like, turning into a vampire thing and making other people one with them could have elements and overlaps with like, villains who believe in superiority and master races and all that, similar to the Nazis or other fascists. But at the same time, the whole thing with vampires is that they're impure. Their blood is literally infected and tainted by sometimes it's a vampiric virus, other times it's just a curse, but it's
Plus, the
interesting how
master
there's
race
kind of
doesn't even survive sunlight. That's a problem. Like,
exactly, yeah. So
how are
I
you going to
think
be the
I like
master race if you can't even get your vitamin D? Like,
right. So
it's a bit of a
I think
problem.
there's some interesting contrast there of how these like threats in this case try to spread their influence, but are also so weak and vulnerable as they do, despite the danger that they can bring about. I find that very compelling. I already liked vampires as a kid, like as a concept for monsters, but now that I've gotten older and understood that kind of like paradox of like the power and yet the impurity of them, I find that so interesting to consider, and it's reflected well through this show with how it merges it with certain religious ideas. Um, but yeah,
Oh,
that's basically
absolutely,
my
yeah.
summary of it. It lingered on a bit there to brand about vampire symbolism, but that's essentially the show. It's the lives of these people on a religious island, a religious fishing island, as their whole town unknowingly becomes the victim of a vampiric threat under the guise of religion, in a sense.
Yeah, it is.
Despite some,
It's such an interesting story, and the way it all plays out, there's like so many moments in Midnight Mass that actually had me floored and like also stressed to
yeah,
hell and back. It is really effective like horror in terms of tension. And not just in terms of the actual scares. It's like whenever I see like certain characters interacting, my first thought is like, "Oh, who's getting out of this alive?" Like if I see a character I like
right.
on screen, because this show is not afraid to kill off characters. And you know that you feel that midway through, very much so. Especially toward the end, there are no limits to who can be killed off in this show. Um,
Oh yeah,
and
everybody.
I don't
It's like
always
the
think
Corey
that's strictly
Kenshin.
necessary in storytelling, but it is quite an advantage in horror, at least I feel. Um,
Yeah,
like a
it's
genre
like
that
the Cor-
basically relies on tension, both
it's
narrative
like the
and
Corey
you
Kenshin.
know fear wise.
It's like the it's like the Corey Kenshin quote. Everybody dying, me included.
Yep, that's
Oh
that's
shit!
about right.
My mic finicky.
But yeah,
There we go. All right.
now we've more or less outlined the premises of the shows. I'm gonna start by talking a little bit about Over the Garden Wall, and what I thought of
Yes.
it. Really, really, really good show. It's interesting because it's so short and so self-contained. And I don't usually watch shows like that. I typically watch shows that have like long-spanning narratives, or I get involved in stories with long-spanning narratives, because I want to have like a bunch of build-up and a lot of payoff. I want to go on long experiences that last for like a while. Like I'm very, very slowly reading One Piece, for example. I'm reading the Wheel of Time books, which are absurdly, stupidly long. Um, and then you have this show, Over the Garden Wall, which its animated counterparts at the time, even like Gravity Falls, which is kind of in a similar vein to it in terms of like style and humor and like presentation, I suppose. Even Gravity Falls is still a much longer show by a factor of like 8, I think, at
Yeah.
least, because it's got 2 whole seasons, each with 20-minute full-length episodes, about 20 of those episodes per season, whereas like Over the Garden Wall, um, that has 10 episodes, each of which are like 12 minutes. You could knock out the entire show in 2.5 hours, and I did in one day,
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
am really
That's
happy with it. It like I completely understand why this one has such a cult following. It's such a simple story that is told so effectively, because you just have these two kids who are wandering the unknown. And it works because you get to know what their deal is midway through. Like Wirt explains to Beatrice the bird, who's actually a human who was cursed to turn into a bird along with her entire family, which is just kind of that's just kind of a thing in Over the Garden Wall. Random stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, Wirt basically explains he feels a bit of a disconnect from Greg because Greg is actually his half brother. Greg's dad is actually Wirt's stepdad because for whatever reason, I don't remember if they said that his dad died or if he just divorced his mom. That seems more likely to be the answer. For whatever
Mhm.
reason, Wirt's mom got remarried to a different man, who Wirt has difficulty accepting as his stepdad. So he also has a bit of conflict with Greg, as a half brother. Now he obviously still cares for Greg a lot, but like there is a bit of a disconnect with them, and I think the unknown as it's presented in the show is almost used as kind of a metaphor for like the new waters that these two are wading into. Because like at least in Wirt's case, he has to get used to like a whole new like father figure, and like a brother who's like only his half brother. Like these are all
True.
very uncertain waters, and him wading through them is reflected almost in a very literal sense by like him and his and Greg wading through this kind of like weird, old style Americana type place with all these like difficult to understand and comprehend concepts. And I think that metaphor works even better because a lot of the concepts that they run into seem at first to be very alarming and scary, and then through like the solutions they come up with to solve these conflicts. Like for example, there's the episode where like there's the school where they're trying to teach all the animals, and then there's the gorilla, and the woman is devastated about her long lost lover, the teacher, and then they reveal at the end that the gorilla is actually just the teacher's husband or lover in a gorilla suit who got a gorilla suit on once and couldn't take it off. So now he's just been going around terrorizing people because he hopes that someone will beat him up so that they can unveil that it's actually him, which is exactly what happens. And even in the same episode, you also got like the seemingly evil, rich father of the teacher who wants to shut down the school. But it's also revealed that he isn't that bad because his concern is just that he doesn't have the money to support his family or his daughter if the school doesn't run the way he expects it to be run. And Wirt and Greg come up with a solution to that as well. They create like this fundraiser event, and he ends up enjoying it. So he goes from a villain type figure to just kind of a chill guy because they find a resolution. In the pumpkin episode, there's like a whole ass like town of like animated skeletons. Well, everything's animated in an animated show, but I mean like animated as in they walk, and they move. Like
Yeah.
sentient skeletons who wear pumpkin costumes, called Pottsfield, and Wirt and Greg walk into Pottsfield. They get acquainted with the Pottsfield people. They break a few minor laws, so they get sentenced to manual labor for a few hours. At some point, they believe they're digging their own graves and they're going to be buried for their transgressions. That turns out to be a misunderstanding. They run away, but in actuality, the skeletons were not going to do that to them. And of course, you keep going and going and going, and throughout this adventure they have, you run into more and more situations where they think they're confronted by something that they can't understand, can't wrap their head around, can't possibly overcome, and then by being there for each other and having meaningful relationships with the people around them, they end up solving the situation and revealing that the thing they were worried about wasn't really that bad in the first place. It was always something that they just thought they couldn't understand because it looked scary at first glance. But once they pushed through it and they persevered, and they stuck with each other, it became a whole lot less scary. It's like when you're walking
Yeah.
through like the abandoned section of your house and there's a dark closet and you don't really know what's behind that closet, but you flick on the light bulb because you're brave and maybe you have a family member there to help you. And
Right,
then
yeah,
when the
and
light casts in the room, you realize it's not that scary. There's just a bunch of cloves here. Definitely not an evil moose demon. Reference my previous podcast episode for that.
yeah, and I really like, and now that you talk about it, yeah, it in hindsight, it makes sense to say out loud that Over the Garden Wall is a coming of age story. Now that I hear the points made about it spoken more, I agree with that more because yeah, when you mentioned the whole angle of Wirt getting used to this whole new stepbrother situation and just the frustrations of that and being disconnected from both a brother younger than him and a new like father figure technically. Whether he knew his old one or not, I don't know for sure. The show never says is if his mom divorced his mom divorced his dad, or if he died. But yeah, the whole angle of that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, the unknown is essentially, well, I'd say it's two things at once. It is both, it's in a way it's a metaphor for life in a sense where, yeah, exploring these things that seem uncanny or unnerving or not what they seem at first, and coming to understand them better for both better and worse. Whether those things actually are scary and dangerous, or whether
There's
or
the other
not
example of the two
they're
rich people, the fake uncle and then
yeah,
the woman who's his business competitor, where like they're both
yeah,
convinced that there's a ghost, and then through Wirt and Greg's intervention they realize, oh no, their mansion is just so fucking big that it intersects, and they don't even realize because they haven't been to each other's corner of the mansion. So whenever they see each
yeah,
other, they just think that the other one is a ghost, which is
right,
A, hilarious, and B,
yes.
genuinely heartwarming.
Yeah, it's such a clever ending twist for sure, and it's so fun seeing the ways that these concepts that these characters are afraid of get subverted. Or one thing I've noticed as well with Over the Garden Wall, with a lot of its more dangerous forces or like active antagonists, they're not as dangerous as they immediately seem, or they're easier to deal with a bit of bravery, essentially, like the idea of keeping up hope and all that. So like starting with I know there's the Beast, but starting with an easier example, Adelaide of the Pasture, how there's the whole buildup of
Right,
Adelaide
yeah.
being able to send the boys home, but then it turns out all you got to do when she does reveal her true colors and is essentially a puppet of the Beast, Beatrice turns the tables by opening a window, and the night air is poisonous and it disintegrates her. It is and I find that
It's
very
like
funny
an
as well, because
evil
that's one thing I
inverse
really,
vampire situation.
right. It's in fact it's kind
How
of
would
funny
Adelaide
because
fare in Midnight Mass?
oh Christ, she'd be
It's like an
fucked
opposite.
after
It's like
that.
there's like a Mexican standoff at like Adelaide and like the vampires would be at like a Mexican standoff like during sunrise or sunset. It's like it's just a matter of like which side are the like which side is gonna like be affected first. Like can
Yeah.
like can Adelaide how do I explain this in a way that's funny and also gets across the idea I'm trying to put down? Like, imagine that the sun is just rising, right? And the vampires are. I can't explain. Okay, I'm trying to think of how this would work conceptually. The thing is, um, right. Um, I guess it doesn't really matter because if Madeline wants to win, she could just camp. She could basically
Right.
just camp.
Yeah.
Inside her house during the night, and then just come out at daytime, and the vampires would already be gone, and vice versa. The vampires could wait until sunrise, or no, sorry, they could just camp out in a building until sunset, and then lure Madeline out or something. Like it wouldn't be like a Mexican standoff really, because there's no point at which both of them can survive, because one of them is
Correct.
affected
Yeah.
by the night air and the other one is affected by the sunrise. I guess maybe in Madeline's case, it's just the air in general. So, like, Madeline has to stay inside at all times, which I would
Right.
guess makes the vampires the winner. That and the
I
fact there's
did
a whole
actually
army of them.
I was watching, I think, like a reaction video or looking for Over the Garden Wall stuff online. I did find out apparently the whole like night air is poisonous thing, that was apparently a superstition among like either some old ass Europeans or American settlers or something. There were weird, it was just one of those weird ass like how does the world work things that they probably used to explain something with an easier explanation than they thought.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's one of the things I love about Over the Garden Wall is that it 100% operates on like Grimm's fairy tale logic, where it has a lot of like weird encounters and deities and beings that seem so scary and terrifying, but they have these weird rules regarding them. Like again, Adelaide is the witch of the pasture who can manipulate string and tries to fill people's heads with wool so they'll be mindless sheep, but she's defeated by a simple opening of a window at night. Or another one of my favorite examples, episode 7, the storyline with Lorna and Auntie Whispers.
Oh, that's a good
I
one.
think that's yeah, I love the first off, I have to
I
say
think it's kind of funny that Auntie Whispers never just considered, oh, why don't I just use the bell command to just get the evil spirit to fuck
yes,
off? Like, she never considered that
yes.
that would be a possibility.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where in a more it's I think in a show that
Now
was
I'm just
more grounded
imagining
in reality.
now I'm just imagining that like Auntie Whispers just fucking hits the evil spirit with like the low tier god monologue.
Your life is meaningless in my Lorna. You serve zero purpose. The ringing of the bell commands you to kill yourself now.
That's awesome.
That would be insane.
That's
But
so
yeah,
peak.
with Auntie Whispers, yeah, and that's also the fun stuff of like you see this crazy Auntie Whispers, I think is one of the best subversions in the show because her design is so overtly creepy. She doesn't look like, what would be considered a stereotypical normal old person or aunt in that time. She has these weird, almost nun-like attire. She has this large, very wide-eyed face. Her teeth almost look like wood chips or splinters, and they're jet black. And one weird difference me and my mom noticed, like her hands are not the same skin tone as her face. So it looks really creepy and unsettling. And it sounds
Right,
like, and given
yeah.
that she'll eat those turtles that they have around, those black turtles. So the idea of like her being the devourer and the
Which is
children eater
crazy, by the way,
is
because turtles have like harmful bacteria on their fucking skin.
yes,
Like, if you even so
they
much
carry
as touch a
salmonella.
turtle, if you like with most raw meat, you can you only really get it if you eat the raw meat. Um because I mean, like, if you cut it out of a chicken and then touch it, you're gonna get salmonella. But like, if you just like touch the outside of a chicken, you're fine. If you touch even the outside of a turtle, a live turtle, you could get sick if you then touch your face without washing your hands. 100%.
Yeah, in fact,
Which is so it's
I just looked
terrifying
this up.
that Anti Whispers can just scarf down these fucking things. She
It's
has
even more
built up an
fucked up when you
immunity.
realize, mind you, she's not just scarfing them down, she's sucking them out of their shells before crunching on them because she takes the
Like
intact,
it's
empty
like they're fucking
shell.
pistachios.
Yes, so she's literally sucking on the diseased shell of the turtle. Like, holy shit. That is
That is
so. It's.
terrifying. I
Yeah,
also
it's
want to mention,
really.
if you've ever heard of the tale Hansel and Gretel, which is like old German folklore, about
Oh,
like kids
yeah.
being lured out. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it. A lot of the
Yeah, absolutely.
designs of the witch character who lures out Hansel and Gretel are also common design features that are kind of replicated by anti-whispers. So that seems like a very deliberate choice to
Yeah.
almost reference that kind of thing with anti-whispers. You immediately get the feeling that she is not to be trusted whatsoever,
Yeah.
with her
And
very
it's actually
conventionally
kind of
creepy
clever
design.
because in a way, actually, yeah, it's sort of like an echo of the story because the show also does the whole Hansel and Gretel thing in episode 1 with like Greg leaving the candy trail. Only in this case, it's like a bigger demise and all that. So it kind of echoes that, but it's not quite the same. So yeah, it wears its fairy tale inspirations in a lot of areas on its sleeves, but it also does new stuff that feels in line with what it's going for in this setting, but is also different. But also speaking of the setting, so there is another like view of Over the Garden Wall that I do kind of want to discuss. I mean, do you have a preference regarding like discussing individual characters first, or like thematic ideas? Because I do kind of want to discuss what the unknown, like what I think it is as a location, given what the show gives us. But at the same
Well, that's
time,
relevant.
you know,
That's relevant to the characters as well. Because as I said,
okay,
I interpret the unknown as being, at least in part, a metaphor for the internal struggles that Wirt and Greg are going through. Are going through. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so
I mean,
I view it partly that.
I already made my case about that. How like a lot of these things can be interpreted as like scary things that become less scary once you illuminate them, and that can be applied
Right.
to a bunch of different things. Like Wirt thinking that it's too scary to get over like this whole like stepfather thing, and half brother thing. He's not used to it, but like the more time he spends with Greg, he's like, you can tell that like he's starting to develop in terms of like his outlook on that, and he starts to kind of conquer his fear. And in the end, like you can tell that like the bond between him and Greg is completely ironclad. Like those are brothers. They
Yeah,
would probably die.
for
They would
sure.
probably fight side by side in Stalingrad, in World War II if it came down to it.
Yeah, but I will also say, so one other way of looking at the unknown that I and a lot of other people have kind of, I guess, subscribed to would be the word, maybe not. But so another way that could be viewed with the unknown, if you think about it, it's both a representation of Greg and Wirt's struggles, but it is also a purgatory in a sense. Because if you recall, the reason they end up there in the first place is because they get knocked out by a train after climbing over a garden wall and basically almost drowning in a lake. So a lot of what they're experiencing is technically in their head. However, here's another thing that's also worth noting. In the graveyard scene of the penultimate episode where we see how they got to the unknown, when they're spying on Wirt's crush Sarah and like them telling campfire stories,
Right. That actually
one of the
reminded me of a
graves.
point I almost made but didn't make. Um,
Hmm,
Another one of the struggles that Wirt has that like he's first terrified by and then I guess warms up to is the whole like crush thing with Sarah. Because you see in that
yeah.
backstory episode, he's completely like he is like completely embarrassed about this entire thing. He's got like this whole like this tape that he wants to give to Sarah that confesses his feelings, but like he's also super embarrassed. He thinks
Yeah.
that Sarah's gonna listen to it with like the other guy that she's hanging out with, a guy named Jason
Jason.
Thunderberger, which by the way, I really like the way they did Jason Thunderberger because he's such a double subversion. Like you hear that name and you
Yes.
basically imagine like a typical jock character who's like the average rival like love interest in like every 80s movie, like every kind of movie. I feel like Over the Garden Wall has an 80s aesthetic, even when you see what the world that Wirt and Greg came from looked like. Like the cars seem not
Brutal.
decidedly not modern for like a show that came out in 2014. So that's where I'm basing that from. Um, but
Yeah.
if we imagine that a lot of these characters follow 80s archetypes, like you'd imagine Jason Thunderberger is like the jock type character. Um, but like you actually see Jason Thunderberger in that episode, and like he's a short king, and he's got like an unconventional voice, where he's
Oh
like he kind
yeah.
of talks with like a lisp. It's like um, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's just you didn't expect that from what you were being primed to believe about Jason Thunderberger. So at that point, when you see Jason Thunderberger, you then think that the idea is going to be that Wirt was completely wrong to be jealous of this guy because he's actually a complete loser who could not possibly get a girl. But that's actually also a subversion because it turns out that despite these unconventional qualities, Jason Thunderberger is extremely popular. Like he is widely recognized as like the big deal. Like a lot of people crowd around him and they're excited to be spending time with him. Now, it is true that Sarah isn't really into Jason. She seems to reject like him holding her hand too long in one scene, but it's still really funny to me that like they intentionally made Jason like an unconventionally attractive guy, and then they made people
Yeah.
like him anyway.
It was so funny when I watched this with my mom and we got to that reveal. I remember like holding back a laugh when he first showed up. She looked over to me briefly and she's like, "That's the guy." And I was about to lose it because it was
Yeah, but
just
it's even
such.
better that people legitimately like him in canon. Like he's
Yeah.
actually popular.
Right. It's just such a fun reveal altogether, and I love like the design is appropriately like bizarre and different. The voice is, yeah, so unconventional. It's just such, yeah, it's such a great twist. And yeah, that whole stuff with Sarah is just it's good stuff. I like it's just so fun, but also so almost like cringy seeing work just be this insanely anxious mess over someone who it feels like would probably like him back if he just got the bravery figured out.
I know, right?
Um,
It's like, instead of like, yeah, like, yeah, you're right. I mean, like, if he just like straight up asked her out instead of like giving up on himself midway through, like, I feel like he would have been in such a different situation. Because of his own lack of self-confidence, he ends up in this situation where he thinks he's going to be like laughed at by his crush because she has the tape recorder that he recorded his tapes on. And he thinks that she's going to listen to it with Jason Thunderberger, and they're gonna laugh at him, and that's the moment that Wirt becomes Heisenberg.
yeah. Yeah, I also like how
The
a
fact
side
that he has a
detail that I
similar
just
name to
remembered this.
Walt makes that makes me laugh even funnier at that joke in my head. I was prepping this the entire call.
Oh God. My apologies for not hyping it up more with my laughter then.
Oh, that's
But
perfectly
yeah,
fine.
another thing, a small detail as well, but one thing I really have to shout out with this show, by the way, the voice cast is fucking crazy for this series.
Yeah, right? Elijah
You
Wood is
got a
Wirt. How?
then you got Christopher Lloyd from Back to the
Christopher
Future
Lloyd?
playing yeah, he was the woodsman. Doc
Are
Brown
you
was
for
the
real?
woodsman.
The
Oh yeah, that
credits
was
flash
him.
by so fast in each episode that I genuinely didn't see the names. Like,
Right. It's there's also, yeah, what are some of the others? So we have a kid named Colin Dean who played Gregory. Melanie Linsky played Beatrice. I don't know all these people, but I still want to list them off. John Cleese was Quincy Endicott. So that's a good choice.
no, that is John.
Emily
That is basically John Cleese if he was an aristocrat in
Interesting.
purgatory.
Interesting.
Like, that is a
Yeah,
very apt casting.
Emily Brundage plays Sarah. I'm checking. Oh, I guess I was wrong. I thought she was the voice of I thought she was the voice of Eileen from regular show because they sound super similar. I guess not. It looks like she's more of a yeah, she's much more of a writer than an actress. She's written for like, yeah, a lot of kids shows, Star, Powerpuff Girls, Amphibia, Hilda,
Amphibia. Now
DC.
that's a deep cut. We've never referenced that
Yeah,
before.
she did a story segment on the episode Girl Time, looks like.
That's an interesting
But
full circle moment.
yeah, but and then for the others, we got Shirley Jones as Beatrice's mother, Sam Marin as the hay wagon driver that goes like, "Oh, the beast is
Oh,
upon me."
I want to know who was Fred the horse. Fred the horse is such a funny character for being in 2 episodes. Like,
he was played by
him tagging along in the Quincy Endicott episode was just so fire. He had so many good lines in that for like being a random side character.
Greg. Fred's a horse. He can do whatever he wants. I want to steal.
That's so peak. I also like the moment where like they suspect Quincy Endicott is like an insane murderer, and Fred's like, "Oh, nothing's
Oh
going on
yeah,
here," and then whispers to Greg, "Yeah, this guy's a murderer. We gotta get out of here."
exactly. But yeah, so Fred the horse was played by writer and actor Fred Stoller.
So he's
So
also
they got an
named
actor.
Fred.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna be
oh
disappointed
shit,
if I find
yeah,
out this guy isn't a real
he's had
horse.
like I remember now. Yeah, this guy's had tons of like voices in some cartoons I really like. He's yeah, he's been in, let's see, Adventure Time, Modern Family. I know that's not a cartoon, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Clarence. I know he plays a really funny character on the Penguins of Madagascar cartoon named Fred the Squirrel. That's 2 Freds. He's
Oh my
played
god,
2
it's
Freds.
his MO. Eventually he's
in
gonna have
animation.
eventually he's gonna be every animal, and he's just gonna be called Fred the blank animal here.
He's played Fred the Squirrel in Penguins. He's played Fred the Horse in Over the Garden Wall. Yeah, he's been on other stuff like Central Park, Summer Camp Island,
He's
Rick and
collecting the
Morty.
animal
I
rolls like fucking Infinity Stones, bro.
I forgot there's a great episode of Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur where Devil meets like some Marvel animal sidekicks. One of them is one of Thor's goats from Love and Thunder, Tooth Gnasher, and he plays Tooth
That's
Gnasher
awesome.
in that episode.
I'm,
Yeah.
I thought the
And then for
goat
some of the
screaming joke was fucking obnoxious in that movie, but like I'm sure it's funny in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. That show could
he
not
doesn't he
possibly do
doesn't
it wrong.
Oh yeah, he actually doesn't do the screaming goat joke.
Oh,
He
thank God.
speaks English
Oh, thank
because
God.
the devil because it's an animal communication thing, sort of. Or maybe not, because one later episode
I have
shows like,
never seen someone be so late to the joke as Taika Waititi was of the screaming goat meme in Love and Thunder.
right,
Literally almost a
yeah, I can't.
decade after those fucking screams were actually popular.
Two things on that as well. One fun fact about the screaming goat. It's a sheep, so we've been lied to.
Oh,
And two, yeah, it's
damn,
been
how could they
apparently
do
been a
this to
sheep.
us? That's the real reason I
Yeah,
don't like Love and Thunder. It would be an awesome movie if not for that.
yeah. But
That'd be an
and
interesting
look,
podcast
Taika.
discussion. It'd be such an
I
interesting
still find.
podcast discussion to dissect that movie because that's one of the rare
Oh
things
yeah,
that Kevin and I disagree on. I don't think that movie's good. Kevin likes it, but
yeah. So that could be a lot of fun to sort of bounce back and forth on because I do have problems with the movie for sure, but my problems I think are a bit different than Noah's. But
yeah,
yeah,
maybe
back to the
it would be an
casting thing.
interesting
Okay, so
discussion.
Jason Funderburker was played by Cole Sanchez. And let's see. Okay, he has acting credits in a few things. Not much, mainly Cartoon Network stuff. He's voiced characters in Clarence, Adventure Time, OKKO, Over the Garden Wall, or yeah, duh, Summer Camp
Oh, I
Island,
didn't know that.
and then the Adventure Time spin-offs, Distant Lands and Fiona and Cake. So he mainly
It's nice to
Cartoon
see
Network
my
stuff,
boy
but
Jason Thunderburger still getting roles.
yeah, very, very limited though. But yeah, so and then for some of the others, oh yeah, this is one of my favorites. Tim Curry is Auntie Whispers.
The fuck?
That was Tim fucking yeah.
How'd they get all these people, bro?
I don't
It's
know.
like I'm not complaining.
I have
I'm
no
glad that they lended their voices to such like to something like Over the Garden Wall, which is by no means high profile as a show. But
they
like
also got
how how much money
wait,
did that cost, dude?
okay, this is interesting. So the guy who did
I guess because it's
yeah,
such a
so the
small
guy
role
who
for all of them, because of how short the show is, it might have not been that expensive, but like,
maybe,
god damn.
yeah. And then also they got the actor for Greg's Frog is a guy named Jack Jones. Okay, he died last year. Actually, he
Oh
died
god
last
damn.
October.
I'm sorry to hear
Shit,
that. I
rest
mean, I don't know who I'm
yeah, right
apologizing to, but like that's
right
upsetting
before
to hear.
right before the 10th anniversary. Rest in peace. Damn.
Oh man.
Um but yeah, so he was apparently
He's
he
with
did
there.
it
He's
says
with
he
there. He was taken to heaven on the frog boat. That's for sure. With a
yeah,
very,
and
very good
apparently
menagerie of musicians.
apparently the guy's much more of a soundtrack dude than like an actor. It says he did the soundtrack for the Airplane sequel. He performed on a Saturday Night Live sketch, or at least did one of the performances.
That's
It said
interesting.
the top of his IMDb says he did the soundtrack for Goodfellas, but I'm not seeing it listed
Soundtrack for
elsewhere.
Goodfellas? That's crazy.
Yeah. He also
You
yeah,
know what?
it's
I'm
so
choosing to believe that because I think it's funny.
fair, yeah. But yeah, he's mainly been in a lot of looks like older movies, yeah, from like the 70s, 80s and 90s. Wow, yeah, there was a big gap cuz
Yeah, no,
he
this guy
did a
was probably
2000
very old. I'm not
he
surprised he
did a
passed away recently now that I'm hearing that.
he did a he did a 2002 film called Cruise of the Gods where he played a character called Jack Jones, but then he just I guess took a 10-year break cuz his next roles after that were a jazz quartet singer in American Hustle from 2013 and then Over the Garden Wall, and then his last acting credit is a film called Back to Black from last year. So that might have been where he played a like trumpet player. So yeah, this
Well,
guy's
rest in peace, dude, and I'm glad he's had such a successful career. Like,
yeah,
damn, even
his
if it's
voice
in
is
like
one
the
of
background for the most part, but
his
damn.
voice is quite literally the first thing we get out of the show after piano notes. Like his frog is the first character to
Yeah.
speak in the whole
Congratulations,
show.
Tommy Tallarico.
Yeah. And then
Nah, fuck
finally
that.
we have
I'm
the
not giving
Beast.
Tommy credit for anymore. He's given himself enough credit for things he didn't even do. I shouldn't even give him credit for this guy's work as a joke. Jack Jones, that's the GOAT.
Yeah, then we have the Beast, and I will say, not a lot to this one. He's okay. Apparently, he's worked on soundtracks. He's been a
What's
performer
his
for
name?
some. His name is Samuel Raimi, I think, or Ramey. It's not spelled Raimi like Sam Raimi with the
That
Spider-Man
would be
films.
really
It's
funny
R.
though. It's like the other
That
Sam
would be
Raimi. The
hilarious if
fact
he
that Sam
did.
Raimi is also a horror director too. Like,
Yeah, this would be right up his fucking alley.
that's
But
so
yeah, it
true.
looks like he was a performer on some soundtracks. The big ones I'm seeing being Amadeus from
Yeah,
1984, and then Manchester by the Sea from
literally
2016.
1984.
He has done some acting roles. He was in an 80s Macbeth film. He was in Amadeus as a Figaro in The Marriage of Figaro. A singing voice, an uncredited one. He
What's
was also
Patrick
in a
McHale done? I
Don.
know he was the show. I know he was the showrunner.
Hmm. Well, yeah, it says here his last acting credit was Over the Garden Wall, where he played the Beast. I've heard he's apparently
He
much
was
more of
this.
like a theater performer.
Patrick McHale was a writer for Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. That is good.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes a
this
lot of
guy's still
sense
getting
actually.
work. 100%.
I've heard
He
that
worked
Pinocchio.
on
I've heard that
he worked on Flapjack, Adventure Time, Gravity Falls, Fiona and Cake, and a show called The Elephant that is coming out in 2026. I'm sure you're gonna be
Oh,
you want to have your eyes peeled for
oh
that
yeah.
one, Kev.
It's being worked on by Rebecca Sugar, the creator of Steven Universe.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting
Yeah,
crossover.
apparently it's like an animated anthology thing. I don't think it's specifically about elephants. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know much. It's apparently in like super
Is
early
it
production
like
stages.
is it like a variant of how like the show The Bear is not really about a bear? It's about like a restaurant.
Yes, exactly. Or like how the show Beef is not about cows. Um, yeah, God, what am I looking for here? I just want to see if I can find it more. It's not showing any information on
Is
this
it
right
about
now.
Twitter? I mean, I've never seen more beef than there.
It should be if it isn't. But yeah,
It's
so
named after the comment section after I mentioned Vladimir Lenin.
right. Point is, lot of really great actors on this show. A lot of people, popular and lesser known, giving their all and just
Yeah,
having a great
we're
time
gonna
with it.
also have a segment talking about the actors on Midnight Mass because they also deserve the glaze big time.
Yeah,
But
100%.
um, yeah, I think there was a point you were trying to make about the unknown as like a purgatory, but then we got sidetracked by like the whole Sarah thing and like the fucking word
Right.
Heisenberg joke, and then like listing out all the actors.
Yeah, so the point I was going to make is that like I said, if you recall, before they end up in the unknown, they get hit by a train by accident when going over the garden wall.
They don't get hit. They
and,
just they run from the train and tumble into a lake.
Oh, interesting. I always thought they got
Kev,
like
if they got hit by a train, they would be dead on sight. Like that would not be survivable.
Not directly hit by it, but in my head, like, oh, they were about to jump, and then they got like.
Oh, you mean like they got
by.
skimmed? Like
A bit,
very
yeah.
I think you would have to be
Maybe
very far out of the train's range to survive that. At the very least, even if it hit your foot, you'd probably get it blown right off, or your leg would be at least twisted. Like,
Yeah.
well,
anyway,
you need to understand. I mean, I'm sure you know this. Trains have an insane hit force. For context, people have said this about because you know there's cases of like school buses crossing over like train tracks, and the instructional manuals and shit and safety videos all say that a bus being hit like a train is like a can of fucking soda being hit by a bus. Trains are no joke.
Yeah. Okay, so point is, I was dumb. Anyway,
No,
point is,
that's
they
fine.
get not.
You're
They
allowed
fall
to
down
be
a
on this
hill and
podcast.
they fall down a hill and land in a river and start drowning, in a sense, as they're unconscious. So while they're
Look, I'm
unconscious,
autistic. I'm going to
they're
ramble
in.
on about the train. It's just a thing. That,
Yeah, so
and
they're
you are too.
believe me,
So.
I grew up on Thomas the Tank Engine and made an
So
animation
did
for a
I.
show called Infinity Train. I like trains too. But
Is there
yeah,
actually
with
a train in that
so
show? I still need to get around to seeing it.
yes, the whole premise is that like the whole premise of the show is like human passengers are called to the train and given a random number to explore its different cars and bring down that number through character building.
Oh, that's fire. Okay.
Anyway,
Sorry, go on.
anyway, but yeah, so with so the detail I was trying to mention earlier was that in the
Sorry.
graveyard when there's it's okay when they're spying on Sarah and like I guess Wirt's friends in a sense. Maybe he doesn't consider them as friends like that. I don't know. But
Wirt's only
if you
got
look
ops,
closely,
if you think about it.
there is a tombstone in that graveyard that reads, I swear this is in the show if you go back and look. There's a tombstone that reads Quincy Endicott.
Oh. Now that's just his lesser
Yeah.
known cousin, also named Quincy Endicott.
Yeah. But that is a real tombstone in the show, and I made sure that was there, and I wasn't like hallucinating from last year. But also
No, that's
I want to bring
interesting
attention.
though. Yeah, you're right. They could be dead.
I want to bring attention to something as well. So remember how the opening of the show starts, right? Where it's the frog singing and it's giving us teasers of the other characters' experiences. Like you
Yep.
see, or like the episodes, you see we see a teeny bit of Pottsfield. We see the carvings of the Dark Lantern Tavern people. We see the Gorilla Show. And we see Lorna sorting the bones of her victims in the catacombs. That's what
Well,
that
not her.
meant.
I don't think her victims. I think you mean Anti-Whisper's victims. Or am I wrong?
No, the twist was that Lorna was the people eater because she had that.
Oh,
demon
right.
in
Sorry.
her.
Yeah, I got confused because I thought you were assigning the
Here.
responsibility to Lorna herself, not the demon. But
Oh yeah, no, sorry. But yeah, so
but
in
yes,
that opening,
yes, I guess she was technically used by the demon to kill those people. That is correct.
But yeah, so in that opening, we see like Endicott looking at the painting of Margaret Gray, and then like first time experiencing her ghost. And then this is called back upon in the end of the show, where we see Margaret looking at a picture of Quincy and Fred the horse in the finale. But that's the thing that bugs me. If that was meant to be like after they met, and Fred the horse being there confirms it's after they're met, but Fred is in the painting with Quincy, and they're nowhere to be seen alongside Margaret, and she's not in the painting. So here's my fucking theory: Margaret killed Quincy. I think she was what Fred the horse suggested, like the whole joke about like, and Quincy Endicott's a deranged killer who who did with the mistress and took over her mansion. I genuinely am like, wait, did she do that instead?
That would
Because
be a crazy plot twist.
why would Endicott and Fred the horse not be there in the finale looking up at the painting with her? And why wouldn't she be in the painting with them if it's a new business venture and they're all still alive? So, yeah, I don't know for sure, but I think that's a really interesting detail worth considering.
Oh yeah, no, that might keep me up at night. I'm not gonna lie.
And I guess as we continue though, I do want to talk a little bit more directly about some of the characters before we get into Midnight Moss.
Sure.
But yeah, in terms of the characters, Wirt is, I mean, yeah, Wirt's great. He's a completely anxious mess, but goes through a journey of responsibility and quelling his like overreactive imagination in a sense. Then you also got Greg, of course, who is just pure childlike wonder and hope and innocence.
Very whimsicore.
Definitely,
That's right. That guy would
as
grow
somebody
up to
who's
be like Superman if he had superpowers.
yes, 100%. That's one thing I like. I can say this as well about Greg, having grown up with a little brother that I would get into fights with at times when I was younger. Greg is the perfect embodiment of a little brother. Occasionally obnoxious and definitely a free spirit that can contrast with your goals. However, when it counts, they're a ray of sunshine, they're awesome, and you don't want them to like go away or not be around. So
100%. Yeah. And
definitely
Wirt takes some time to warm up to him to the extent that he does in the end, but like that's his takeaway when you really get down to it.
exactly. As
Yeah.
on top of this as well, I also shout out to Greg for the headless elephant costume.
That's
His
fire.
Halloween costume. I always forget the fucking the kettle is meant to be an elephant's head, and it just makes me smile every time I remember
It's so
that.
pure. Like I also
Yes.
love the way that Greg completely misinterprets like instructions and he gets the wrong definition of words constantly. Like it's
Yes.
really fun. It leads to a lot of hijinks.
It's so entertaining. And speaking of good characters, though, of course, Beatrice as well. I think Beatrice is. I'm not going to say she's like. I don't know what the fandom considers of Beatrice. I'm not going to say she's underrated. But
we're not gonna get into the Beatrice discourse. It's always complicated with the Beatrice discourse.
right, but I do think that it's a character that I should think about more, at least on my own terms. Because, sorry, I was looking up fan art on Tumblr and I saw something funny. I'll share in a minute. But
I mean I think she's
but
solid. I
so
don't think that she's like an amazing character, but she serves her role in the story fine, I believe. And she's got some
yeah,
funny
and
bits.
it's fun also rewatching the show and looking back on her dialogue because you can see the moments where it's like, oh, she's clearly being like more pushy and manipulative in with the new context of the twist with Adelaide and what she's really after. But yeah, I think that Beatrice is a character that I don't give enough respect to, honestly, because she helps lead to a lot of great moments and episodes in the show. Like I really enjoyed the whole I like, the funniness of, the animal hijinks and the gorilla and the potatoes and molasses of episode 3, but I also like the main bit of Beatrice and Wirt just having the most petty beef with each other, and like Beatrice thinking he's just like just a mindless noob and pushover, and Wirt in his stubbornness is just like, all right, fuck you back. I'm gonna be exactly what you want me to. I love I
Yeah,
love the
it's
bit
literally
where
malicious compliance. Like, you know, the
yes,
subreddit where like people are like, here, I'm gonna follow instructions at work, except I'm gonna do it in the most obnoxious way possible. But you can't get me in
I
trouble
have
because
not
I did what you told me to do.
I had not heard that, but that's so great. I love the bit where it's like, all right, Wirt, you've proved me wrong. You're not a pushover. Oh yeah, deep down, you're a stubborn jerk who doesn't know when to quit. When are you gonna give this up? Maybe never. Maybe I'll
That's like
never
the
give it up.
opposite of a backhanded compliment. It's like an insult that's actually a compliment. Like when you really think about it.
Exactly. Also, speaking of other characters, I'm not going to talk about the Beast quite yet because there's another character I want to talk about with him.
We
But I
should
have to
probably
shout
do
this
at
out because
least a
I'm on.
bit of midnight mossing before we get to the beast. Because the beast is like the bread
Yeah,
and
but
butter.
in that case, I'll save what I just found for later because it's really funny. But I want
Yeah.
to
You
save
want
it
to
for
we
when we.
now we get the chance to do organic build up. This is peak improv.
Right. Okay, but yeah, so in terms of other characters that are like honestly like yeah, that's the main trio. There's a few other key characters that make a big impact, but Over the Garden Wall is kind of similar to something like Alice in Wonderland in that even when there's build up for certain characters, it's not like they stick around the entire time. A lot of them don't come back until the finale. So, yeah, with I guess we can pretty much move on to Midnight Moss's characters, I'd say, because I actually clarify this for me. Am I actually saying it right? Is it Moss for like the church congregation, or
I
is it
honestly
Mass? Or is it?
don't know. I've heard
Oh,
both.
okay.
Uh, Is church mass pronounced mass or... I'm looking this up right now. Start page, give me the answer. As an English person, the ass of class is not pronounced ass. It's pronounced more like arse. More focus on the beginning of the word class. That's not... Okay, that doesn't help me because I'm not English, but that is really fucking funny. I'm not gonna lie.
It's like another Randy Feltface bit of like websites or internet just giving you the exact opposite of what you're looking for. Like bookshelf, 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 combine harvester. What the fuck? And it's actually a decent price. I'll save it for later.
I don't... Okay, wait. Mass liturgy pronunciation. Let's see what we get here. Do not fail me now. Do not fail me now. Now it's just telling me how to pronounce liturgy. I know how to pronounce liturgy. God damn. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go with mass because it's personally easier for me. But if I'm wrong, and you go to mass, feel free to correct me in the comments. I think it's prudent to mention that neither of us are religious. We have some religious family, but mine is mostly Protestant anyway. So like, and I don't know if I think mass is mainly a Catholic thing, but.
Yeah,
I could also be wrong about that. Correct me too.
Yeah, for a little context, I am agnostic myself, and my family now is pretty like not really religious. We did when I was little, my parents did try to go to the church. It wasn't like for religious purposes. It was more for the sense of community. But then we left because there was a change in like I don't know what the exact title would be, but like the woman in charge of the church, she was changed by somebody who was a bit more just traditionalist and stern, and it just wasn't fun for them anymore. It was just different. So it was just
and then came the vampires, of course.
I only just learned this recently. That's
why you had to get out of Texas. Because of the vampires.
Yeah, well, this was back in Illinois before.
Long before
Illinois.
I moved to Texas.
Oh, yeah,
even worse. Sure. Even worse. They say that about Illinois. All the vampires live in Illinois.
That's what word
in the streets is saying.
We have enough fucking problems with Midwestern werewolves in Michigan and Wisconsin and shit. We don't need the vampire virus.
Yeah, man, you gotta get out of Chicago. Like,
I'm sick of them putting chemicals into the sky that turn the frogs into
famously
vampires.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson ran on the campaign promise that he'd finally deal with the vampire problem, and that's how he got elected.
As we all know, the Great Chicago Fire was actually caused by Blade, infamous vampire or daywalker, using the.
It was It was actually caused by all the vampires burning. It created like a massive chain reaction that like started burning down the city, and that's what happened to Chicago, man.
That or an alternate MCU where Blade got the Phoenix Force before Jean Grey, like in the Marvel Rivals symbiote event, and just
I'm gonna pretend I know what that would mean. Yeah, I guess that does it.
But yeah, so with I'm just giving it as a little context because it's not that. Yeah, with religion, my stance is clear. Like, I don't care what religion you believe in, just don't hurt anybody or use it to control people, and I don't give a shit.
Don't be Bev Keane.
But there's a lot of people in certain groups that do that, and it colors my perception of it a lot of the time. So definitely some bias on my end, especially again as an agnostic person, but. It's still I do see the value of religion, and I think the show works with a lot of its religious themes super well through its characters.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I appreciate it for that, because it would be really easy to just go like the typical route of Midnight Mass being a show that's just about religious trauma, about how like religion can be weaponized to hurt people. And like the sort of things that can cause. It is about those things, but it could have just been about those things. And that still would have been a pretty good show. But I think what makes Midnight Mass exceptional is that it also empathizes with the religious position and understands why religion appeals to so many people. I think of that scene with Riley on the boat where like he looks up at the stars and he's like, this is where it started. People were wondering, where people think there are other people up in those stars, and they had to wonder, how are they there, and what are they doing up there? How are they producing all that
Right.
light? And that's where the whole thing came from. And he describes it as a very beautiful thing. It's just like, oftentimes religion, and especially organized institutional religion, can be twisted as a means of controlling people. I mean, heaven knows that the Catholic Church did that so many times throughout its history. And that's like the history that's being drawn upon for this show, because it is specifically Catholicism
Yeah.
that has most of the Crockett Islanders in a grip. I don't really think there's much of Protestantism in the show. I don't think there's any explicitly Protestant character. There is, of course, a Muslim character. There's two Muslim characters, although one of them has a bit of struggle of faith. You got Sheriff Hassan. You got his son Ali. Those two characters really love their part in the story.
Yeah.
Like, the acting and writing for Hassan and Ali, just top tier shit. Top tier.
Oh yeah.
But that's maybe
It's
to get into a bit further. I mean, I'll touch back on this point because we're going over the religious aspects, and obviously Islam is a religion. Smart
Right.
observations being made on this podcast.
And there's so much discussed there regarding like how different people and in a sense, especially through the show, it, like you say, it portrays both sides of the coin. Excuse me. It portrays both sides of the
No
coin
worries.
when discussing views of religion, where it's both easy to see why people consider the religion some of the people consider the religion in context a joke, whereas other people, you kind of need it. And there are some character struggles where even though religion is not the answer, you hear about and see these struggles of like the shit they've been going through in their lives, and you can almost see like, I'd see how, with how bad everything is, it's easy to see why these people would connect with that. Like, I think mainly to Erin in the show, and how she has that whole conversation with Riley where she talks about like how she just had a really rough go at life, and when she thought she found somebody she cared about, she realized that, in her words, like, she married her mother, in that she married somebody with the same like negative attributes and problems as
Yeah, like
her.
abusive tendencies. It's very heavily. I don't
Exactly.
even want to say implied. It's just outright stated that like Erin's mom was an abuser, and so was the husband
Right.
that she ended up meeting.
Precisely. So it's, in a way, there's moments like that where it's like, you can see the real life struggles of these people and understand why they would retreat to their faith in something else in that regard, or embrace it
And
in that
as well,
sense.
for a lot of the Crockett Islanders, like, they are literally experiencing what they perceive as miracles. You have Ed Flynn, who's
Yeah.
Riley's father. Ed Flynn is able to walk again, and his back doesn't hurt anymore, because some of the vampire blood is going into the wine that they're drinking at mass. I believe that's what causes it. There's like a
Yes.
limited
Yeah, that's what
amount of
happens.
blood that gets into the Crockett Islanders before like the whole vampirism thing starts going wild. So you got
Yeah.
Ed. His back doesn't hurt anymore. He's able to like dance with his wife.
You've got
You've
Lisa
got
Scarsborough,
you
who
got
can
Lisa
walk.
Scarborough who can walk. Like, Father Paul does some like insane shit where he like basically stands back and beckons for Lisa to walk, knowing full well that she's gonna be able to, because like he infused her wine with the vampire blood. And like at first her parents are just like horrified, because like if your priest did that to you in real life, you'd be like, what the fuck? But
Yeah.
then she actually walks, and it's such a crazy scene. It's like, if that
Yeah.
happened to you, you would 100%, if you were already a religious believer, you would think of that as an act of God, most likely.
Right.
Or at the very least, a very, very lucky coincidence,
Yeah.
which might be a
It's a
little too
very
lucky.
100%, and it's just such a
And then you also got
the
Mildred
ways.
Gunning just constantly de-aging as well, and also her dementia being like undone by the blood.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, that was a really good. That was a
I did not
surprising.
expect Mildred to be like one of the most badass characters in the show at the beginning. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Like,
And I also I and speaking of like the religious discussion stuff, I talked about this with you a little on Discord, but I've said this one of the scene that really like I already liked the show when I started watching it, but the scene that fully hooked me and said like, oh yeah, this is gonna like change my life in some way is the scene of Riley talking to Father Paul about like his experience with alcoholism and his why he doesn't just retreat to religion over it, because in his eyes religion is often used as an excuse to justify suffering, whether it's somebody else's fault or not.
I
And
genuinely love
I
as well. Sorry, if I may just briefly cut in here.
yeah, go for
I
it.
love that Father Paul in these scenes doesn't like talk over Riley and actually understands where he's coming from. Like Father Paul's response is there's nothing in scripture that actually says that God neglects personal accountability. I completely understand what you're saying and there's a lot of validity to it. It's like I would really appreciate
Yeah,
hearing that from a religious person, even as someone who's not religious, while like talking about, I guess, my struggles with the whole concept. Because like I'm someone who
right.
can't really wrap my head around like Christianity as a religion. There's room in my head. There's like room in my head and my heart for there to be a godlike figure out there who loves
Yeah,
us, but I don't think it's the one exactly described in the literal sense in the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or any other like religious text. I just don't believe if there
exactly.
was, this is me personally, I just don't believe if there was such an all-encompassing powerful being that texts written by humans would be able to capture that entire like essence. And I know that a lot of people in these religions don't believe the texts were written by humans, or at least that they were divinely inspired. I have my own reasons as to why I believe that's logically impossible, but I'm not going to get into a debate because I'm going to sound like an annoying redditor about it. The point is, I have a lot of like complicated thoughts on this subject, and like I'd love to be able to
Yeah.
discuss it with religious people, and I do with a lot of religious people who are open to hearing it. So to see Father Paul engaging with Riley on that level and not dismissing him was really refreshing, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
I really like
And
that.
and I agree with you on that stance. Yeah, because like this is part of why I'm agnostic. It's that I do believe that in a sense there is something, whether you call it a force or a deity or a god or a pantheon or whatever terminology you think is equitable. I I do believe in the sense that like there is something else out there, but it's not 100% as described as what we think it is. Hell, I think even the piece of media that I've seen that gets closest to what I would hope is out there, The Good Place, even that's not like 100% the same thing.
Right. I mean,
So,
I take it without the penis flatteners. I think we can discard those.
yes. But yeah, with the whole thing involving yeah, with Midnight Moss and all this, the conversation with Riley especially, the whole I felt like through this character I was able to see myself, and not just because Riley and I both have buzz cut hair, but because with a lot of his talking points and what he discussed with Father Paul, it felt like he was basically saying what I've felt inside a lot of the time regarding like religion and the way some people try to use it, or I guess misuse it is more equitable, abuse it even in some cases, and take this thing that at best is wonderful for community and experience and bonding and use it for control and hurting people and projecting their perceived reality onto everybody else instead of embracing others' perspectives. It was nice to hear Riley discuss that. And I also, again, like his whole thing with alcoholism as well. Obviously, that's even though it's in a connection related to God, alcoholism is not like religious trauma by default or not tied to it by default. That said, that whole sequence was just really special to me. Like the way he discussed the whole thing of like the alcohol isn't good or bad, but the version of me that would come out when he had enough to drink, he was bad and he was evil and he ruined my life. I really liked that scene. It was so interesting hearing this character admit, like, and then, oh gosh, again, the dialogue in the scene is so fucking good. Just the lead in of, like, I thought if I fed him, we'd be good. Like, he'd never hurt me. And then I woke up and found out he kills somebody. And then that translates to I killed somebody. It was such a great moment of personal accountability in tandem with grief and regret. Because that's the thing. Riley is earnest about his mistakes. He feels bad about the shit he's done.
Yeah, I mean, you get
But
like a billion dead women flashbacks. So like that's how you know he feels guilty
exactly.
about it.
He feels guilt. He feels genuinely guilty, but he's hesitant to. But he's almost like hesitant to get an answer of relief from Father Paul because of his bad experiences with religion, because of his perspective on it being like pieces of shit like Bev, or even just like honest people, or people. Well, more so, pieces of shit like Bev using religion as an excuse, or as he puts it, like the only fucking thing that keeps people from doing anything, doing fucking nothing, is the idea that suffering can be a gift from God.
I think the fact that you
And
can like paraphrase that and almost directly quote it just tells you how good of a line that is.
exactly, yeah, I don't remember everything from the show, but that is like one of the scenes that has stuck with me most,
Right.
and I am very much like grateful for that moment because it kept me watching the show, but also reflected a lot of thoughts I had regarding both personal accountability and religious perspectives. So it really
And as I
is.
say, I really do like that like Father Paul validates that perspective and agrees with the personal accountability thing. And
Yeah.
that's actually an interesting thing about like Catholics. I watched a video from a YouTuber who I believe has like a Catholic background, Biz Barclay, a whole like 3 hour breakdown of she makes some good videos. A whole 3 hour breakdown of Midnight Mass and God's Not Dead and their opposing themes. Because one of them is about Catholicism, the other one's about like American evangelical Protestantism, which are like two very different branches of Christianity. Um, a lot of evangelical Protestantism in America is just based on like having faith in Christ and just believing, and that alone can save you. Whereas with Catholics, there's a lot of discipline involved and a lot of personal accountability for many Catholics. Tradition is extremely important in Catholic churches, and like holding to like strict guidelines and making sure to do your duty. Because the idea is that like God cares more about like what kind of person you are than like just you believing that he exists and that Christ is God. Like that's
Right.
why you actually get like a very heavenly scene when Riley finally kicks the bucket. I have to say it in crude terms. You get a very heavenly scene of Riley, the atheist character, getting confronted by what looks like an angel with the face of the woman he killed, being brought into seemingly some sort of heaven. Which, like, if God is real in the context of this show, like in universe, that's him extending an olive branch to Riley, being like, I know you didn't believe in me, but what you've done here in terms of taking accountability and doing good for the world is more important to me, and I'm going to take you with me. I think that's a really sweet idea if it is what the show is actually trying to say.
Yeah.
And
And
I
also
think
the
I'll let you go. I'll let you go. I had another point I was going to
actually,
make,
I
but
lost my train of thought right as I was about to speak, so you can finish up. I completely
oh,
just
okay.
blanked on what I
All
was
right,
going to
well, I'll
say.
go then. I think so much of the show works, and so much of its confrontation of religious topics works because Father Paul is a tragic figure. Father Paul makes so much of the damn show. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The fact
Yeah,
that he's a tragic figure and not just like a straight up villain or a zealot or like a Frollo type who literally just uses the
right.
religion cynically to like hurt people. You get a character like that. That's Bev Keane, but she's not like the main focus in that regard.
Right.
I really love that Father Paul is a more morally ambiguous character who, yes, has done some
Yeah.
terrible things, but a lot of that is attributable to the vampirism and like the craving for blood and him trying to reframe that as something from God because he doesn't know how else to cope with it. Like, you can tell because Hamish Linklater, he's the guy who plays Father Paul. Or you also could call him Pruitt because they're the same guy. I think you mentioned that in your breakdown, right?
Yeah, he and Monsignor Pruitt are the same
Yes.
person. It's like what happens with like you said, it's what happens with the one woman in the show where she is de-aged by the vampire
Yep.
blood through
Yep.
the
Pruitt ends up
juice
looking young and
agent.
hot again. That's right. Paul. So yeah, Father Paul, like the fact that he is a figure who genuinely, honestly believes in what he's doing, um, makes him so much more compelling. And I saw one YouTube comment point this out about Father Paul. The fact that if we assume that he became a vampire right in that first confrontation with the cave, the fact that he had to leave Israel, he had to go all the way back to America, um, presumably by
Ah,
some form of vehicle, like a plane or a boat. I would guess a boat. He had to go all the way back to the United States, all the way to Crockett Island, and then he spent all that time with that community setting up those new sermons and setting up this whole plan. In that time, the very first time, he didn't even realize that he was addicted to blood, that he had vampiric tendencies until like I
right.
think into episode 4, where he was like drinking some of his own blood, and then with the Joe Collie thing, and even then he seemed very reluctant about it. A commenter pointed this out: the fact that Pruitt or Paul or whatever you want to call him, the fact that he took that long to succumb after turning. Whereas later in the show, you see what happens when other people become vampires. They start pouncing immediately. The fact that it took him
Yeah,
that long speaks volumes about his character and his intentions.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
he had to
and
have
I
had
also
a will of iron.
yeah, and even if he and that's another thing as well I got to mention. Even if he was like a more overtly villainous character, the scenes of him being genuinely nice would still add to that, even if he was more simplified motivation wise. Because, like for example, with the Riley scene, and that thing you mentioned of Father Paul going of discussing the whole personal accountability asset to appeal to Riley's emotions, that's manipulative villain shit in another version of the script where he's more. I'm not saying this is what officially happened. I'm just saying like in a different version of the story where
No,
Father
you're right.
Paul's
That
more
would also
villain.
work. I just think I
Yeah,
personally prefer what we got because we have that manipulative zealot like type character in Bev Keane, and she already fills that role
right.
perfectly. I think Father Paul, like, he has the perfect position as like a tragic character who you can't help but sympathize with, even though he's doing all these terrible things. And I mean, at the end, he does come around and he understands that what's going on is messed up. He even outright calls it ungodly. He calls the church that he says that the church cannot be a house of God if they're picking and choosing who to take, because this is all complicated. It's set up by the show, but like Bev Keane wants to exclude people who they turn into vampires who are not believers or not sufficient believers in her opinion. So like any atheists or not committed to the church people, she wants to turn out so that they get burned in the sun after they're turned into vampires when they go around spreading it across the whole island in the climax. Um, Father Paul notices Bev Keane is trying to like exclude people based on belief and commitment, and he's like, no, no, no. God loves everyone. We can't be doing this shit. And if you're going to exclude people from this church and make it exclusionary, it is not a house of God anymore. And then you see him,
Yeah,
and he goes into the church. He sees Sarah Gunning about to burn the whole thing down, and he's like, good. And that's like the perfect
yeah,
moment to show like how his character has shifted. Because in my opinion, even though he says in a later scene to Riley that he doesn't feel any guilt over Joe Collie, I would say he was lying. I would say that he had a sufficient amount of guilt and a lot of doubt about his mission. The only reason he could continue on with his mission was because he kept lying to himself that it's what God wanted of him. But at some point, he realized when everything started like when everything started falling the way it did, with all the Tetris pieces getting into the fucked up holes, he was like, yeah, no, this is not it. This is not what God would want. And I know this because I'm a dedicated priest. Um, and I think that twist,
Yeah.
that turn is so interesting. And the whole backstory of him as well with Mildred, where like, I don't know if there was like an affair specifically, or if Mildred and Pruitt were just in love at one point. And then they had Sarah, and then Pruitt became a priest, so they had to split up. And he never was a father to her that he could have been. I don't know what exactly happened, but either way, you could tell he had such regret in his heart over that. And when you learn that like he was the father of Sarah, that's a whole gut punch because it reinterprets his character in even more ways. And there's that beautiful scene of them at the end, um, Paul and Mildred, and they're looking over their daughter, who's at this point dead, right as they're about
Yeah.
to die, and they're like, "How could she be a sin? Look at her." And I thought that was
Yeah.
so beautiful, especially because Sarah is canonically a lesbian, which I don't know if they knew that, but I like to imagine they did, and they accepted her.
Nice. Yeah, gosh, there's so many good details I'm remembering from this now. Yeah, that whole yeah, I forgot about that affair strand of
Yeah,
the
I
plot.
I
That was
have so
so
much glaze for Father Paul as a character and Hamish Linklater. I think he does such a fantastic job. Maybe one of the best TV performances I've seen. And that is in
yeah.
a show that already has a stacked amount of like a stacked list of performances. I think that's about
Yeah,
I guess that's all the Father Paul stuff I have to say. If you want, we can get more
right.
into the Riley stuff because we haven't even talked about the ending of episode 5, which, like,
Oh
God
God.
fucking damn
Yeah.
it, man. That was rough.
Yeah, that was yeah. I'll admit it didn't have me like bawling my eyes out, but it was like, oh, that hurt. That
It
was
was more of a
just
shock thing. The finale was what had me bawling my eyes out. Um, it was just more like
yeah.
pure bewilderment at the end of that episode, in a good way. My friend who got me into the show said that it was one of the only moments where they were watching a show and they just had to sit there with what they'd seen for like a solid 20 minutes because that was how
Oh
shocking
my
the ending
gosh.
was.
Yeah, I know that fucking feeling, man. Like I know exactly what they mean
You
when
know,
they say that, and because
it's
I've
like
had that.
Yuji Itadori in the Shibuya arc when he comes to after Sukuna has him taken over. Like, and he just sees the wonton destruction. That's the exact feeling.
Yeah, I know that exact feeling as well because I fucking had that like 2 years ago after I watched and I don't try to make everything about the show, but the third season of Infinity Train was really good, but it was emotionally draining. I remember after me and my brother watched that finale, we were like what happened was we started watching season 3 earlier in the week. We watched the first 4 episodes over 2 nights and we were like, oh yeah, we're back, it's Infinity Train, this is good shit and fun. But then we watched episode 5. It shocked the fuck out of us with its ending, and we were like, we gotta watch the next episode. We watched episode 6, then we were like, we gotta do episode 7, we gotta do that. And then we were just like, let's just finish the show tonight, why not? So we did that, and after we watched episode 10 of season 3, we were like emotionally stunned and drained in the room we watched it in for like 20 minutes. We just sat there, not quite in silence. We were talking about it a little bit, but we were floored by how good and also like rough it was. Because without giving too much away, there's a character in that show whose like ending is so like fucked that it's like and mind you, in some ways it's kind of deserved, but in other ways it's like Jesus Christ, and it just sank us low. So the fact that you know somebody who is like, oh, I had the like after watching a scene, I just had to sit there and think about it for 20 minutes. I'm like, oh my god, that's literally me. It's yeah, this show definitely
It's like the
keeps
meme of
you
Gandhi from Cologne High. I need a moment to process this. He just stands with his arms folded behind his
yeah.
back.
Yeah, and I also have to say, by the way, small thing, but this show has some limited but really good CGI. Like there's actually
Oh yeah.
CGI in this show, and it looks great. Like the angel deity. This is one thing I will say I like about vampire
I
media.
think this. I
There's
think
this
the.
clear
I do think that the monster is partially practical effects. Am I wrong about that? I know it's partially CGI, but like I
I'm
think it's a
sure it's. I'm
combination.
sure it is. I'm sure it's a. I'm sure it's a combination of like the face and the body had makeup, and then maybe the wings were CGI. I could be wrong. But then again, like so the parts where it's flying have to be CGI, but like the part where it shows itself and spreads its wings, that they could have had like some fake wings on set and then enhanced them with CGI to get a sense of like the width and where they'd be,
That's what I'm
maybe.
guessing. Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, one thing I really like about the vampire design in the show is that it's kind of an intersection between what most people consider vampire designs, because there's basically two kinds of vampire designs I've grown up with. There's the there's the classic one, the Draculas, where it's basically two camps, the Dracula camp and the Nosferatu one. The Dracula
Right. And then
camp
you have
is
whatever the fuck
vampires.
Twilight is.
Yeah. Oh God! Don't even get me started on fucking Lost Tapes. That was a Lost Tapes is an Animal Planet mockumentary show about cryptids. It was scary for little kids, even though a lot of it's obviously fake. Without giving too much away, the vampire episode of that show, Jesus fucking Christ, what a bizarre but terrifying reimagining. But yeah, so generally vampires, when most people think movie vampires, they think two kinds. They think the Draculas, with they're essentially the fancy rich person with fangs. That's essentially what they look like. They look
Right,
human,
right,
and
right.
they're charming and dashing, but they're predators, even though they don't look that way. And I think that's obviously very beneficial in horror. But then you have kind of the second variation where it's the more monstrous vampire, I'd say. There's a lot of pieces of media where vampires, whether they be underlings or a main monster, they're a lot more mutated, I guess the word would be. They have the bald heads, bat-like ears, very pale skin. This is your examples like Nosferatu,
Yeah, like
technically
from
the original
like from
Nosferatu.
the Robert Eggers movie also has a version of that. Because it is obviously Nosferatu. The
Yeah,
design
so
in that movie, I almost said Peter Eggers, but Robert Eggers' design in that movie, big time second camp there. The
yeah,
Nosferatu type
and
shit,
there's also
because
there's
it's
there's a few.
Nosferatu. I don't know where I'm going
Right.
with this.
I've seen some other as well. Like, there's also takes where vampires are just like, there's subcategories to it. There are some takes where vampires are literally just giant bat creatures, like Hotel Transylvania, the second movie. They have like Dracula's dad, and he commands like this army of giant bats that I don't think they say that they're vampires, but they're massive bats with large teeth. So it's not like outside the realm of possibility.
Right.
There's also
But yeah, you're
there's
right.
like
There's generally like the more charming, handsome, suave vampires and the more like grotesque ones. The way I like to think of it is the two categories are the sexy vampires and the sexy vampires if you're not a fucking coward.
yeah, there's vampires, and then there's vampires for monster fuckers, essentially. But yeah, with Midnight Mass, what I think is so compelling about the vampire is that visually it's firmly in the second camp. It's got a bald head, pale skin, the more overt, sharp
That's
teeth.
about the progenitor, of course, because most of the vampires are just like people. They actually don't look any different from like regular people, which is really interesting in its own right. But specifically about the progenitor, like demon monster kind of creature. Yeah, you're right. Second camp,
Yeah.
more Nosferatu type. Sorry, go
Yeah,
on.
it's got like bat-like ears, more overt like clawish nails, and then those like bizarre wings. I do like the subversion, by the way, of because they refer to it as an angel and they do the whole "be not afraid" when humans see an angel, they were always afraid thing. I like how in this variation the angel is bat-winged. I think that's a very brilliant visual connect, because even when we see like the supposedly biblically accurate angels as like these rings of eyes and whatnot, they
Yeah,
still
that's a point
typically
I
have.
was. Yeah, that's a point I was gonna make as well. Like, they lampshade it or they smoke screen it in the show about like how, oh well, the angels are supposed to be terrifying and overwhelming, but the reason why the angels are so overwhelming is because their designs are incomprehensible, not because they are scary. Um, Like, I
Right.
can comprehend the monster in the show just fucking fine. Like, that's just a Nosferatu type vampire. Like, I would be I would certainly be unsettled if like the giant ring of eyes you're talking about showed up on my doorstep. But you're right, that's
Yeah.
overwhelming and scary for a different reason. You're right, they still have like traditionally like bird-like wings. If that's the point you were gonna make, I'm sorry if I
Yeah.
completely autofilled it
Yeah, no, it's
wrong,
okay.
but
Yeah, and they're also typically like, white dove wings, and doves usually relate to like, purity and like the tale of Noah and finding
I
land and
love
safety and
biblically
such.
accurate angels. Those designs go so fucking hard, dude. Like,
Yeah,
who decided that
and
they
so
would just
one
be like guys with wings when we have the giant rings of fucking fire, or not fire, the giant rings of eyes? Like, that shit's so dope.
yeah.
Like, the Christians were
And
cooking with
another
that
thing
one.
for sure. And one thing as well that I really like with the yeah, back to the angel thing. But what I think is so compelling about the angel is that, so again, visually, very definitely the Nosferatu camp, and like it looks like a vampire that you'd see in like, for example, that horror movie Last Voyage of the Demeter. That was a film that I believe took inspiration from the Dracula novel, but its monster was very much the second camp of vampire with the big bat wings and ears and eyes and stuff. Um, I also actually, that's another thing I'll get to my main point in a sec. That's another thing I'm realizing about the angel vampire that I really like in the show. So I'm a bit of an animal person, obviously, and I know about vampire bats in real life. There's the vampires are seen as like, it's funny. People are always super scared of vampire bats when in reality they're no bigger than like the average human hand. They live in the jungles of South America, so they're hard to find as is. And typically when they come out at night to feed, they typically only do it on like farm animals. They go for like cattle and chickens. And what's so interesting, what a lot of people get wrong about vampire bats, they don't suck blood. They don't have like holes in their fangs that they can drain blood with. They make a tiny cut in the animals that they typically go after. Then when the cut starts bleeding, they lap up the blood, and they actually have an anticoagulant in their tongue that temporarily keeps the blood from clotting until they're fully fed. It's why I say the most dangerous thing about vampire bats is rabies. Vampire bats have bitten people before, but they don't like drink all their blood. The real danger with bats is always going to be disease, never any bites or whatnot. But so with vampire bats, that's kind of my point, right? They don't really suck blood. They make cuts and then they lick it. So I like how with the angel in this film in the series, when you see it drinking blood, you don't just see it like, oh, it like latches onto a neck and sucks the blood out of, say, Monsignor Pruitt or any of its victims on Crockett Island. You see it like it'll make a injury in their necks, but then it'll be like drinking the blood. Like there's that shot where the two kids see it on top, like over that woman in the house. Her neck has clearly been opened, and he's just like lapping on the blood with his tongue as opposed to just straight up drinking it like it's a straw. So I think that's a brilliant way of melding like the vampire legends with a little bit of, I don't know if that was 100% intentional, but if it was, I think that is really smart. I think more horror movies should take inspiration from real animals in some cases with their monsters, because you can get some really cool shit out of it. As seen without saying too much, Nope, great example of this. But
Oh yeah, big time.
with the angel especially, the point I was building to with all this,
I haven't seen
so
Nope,
it's the
but I just know you're right.
it's the yeah, it's the Nosferatu design, but it acts almost like a manipulative Dracula figure in some ways without speaking. It doesn't just like go on a killing spree or act entirely like an animal. It almost plays along toward the end with Father Paul's work, dressing in the robe and displaying itself before those of that are about to become one with it as vampiric creatures. And I think that's so compelling because it's taking a slightly less popular version of a vampire design that a lot of people are used to, but not everybody thinks of typically when they think vampires. Yet it's also taking elements from the manipulative, normal person Dracula side of things in a lot of adaptations. And I think that it's just a really smart creature. And I think that's what makes the show so fun as a horror series, is that it has the hook of it essentially this show its key words would be religious horror is the way to put it. It's religious vampiric horror. And I think those kinds of combinations are so interesting. And I love that in a lot of genres where you have a simple premise, but then you add something to it that elevates it further. So like Ant-Man, for example, I know not a horror movie, but like Ant-Man, it's a heist film with shrink ray powers that elevates it to be a lot of fun. Or Fantastic Four, First Steps. It's a movie about like, saving the world, but framed through a family and a pregnancy. And I think, like whether or not a woman wants to sacrifice her child. And I think that elevates Fantastic Four First Steps into being so great. And this show, it's very similar. It's a show about religious trauma and different perspectives on religion, but it frames it through vampires. And I think it just elevates it so much and makes it so compelling. I feel like a broken record a little bit, but this really is just such a clever show with what it discusses, even to someone like me who is agnostic, who doesn't subscribe to Christianity or Catholicism, but sees what it's doing and what it's going for and thinks it's doing such a damn good job at it.
100%.
Another good example.
Mike Flanagan, the director, said that he grew up with a lot of religion and he grew a bit apart from it as he continued living, but he wanted to include both of those perspectives in the show, and I think he did a fantastic job with that and really grappling with it. I mean, I've gone at length about like how just compassionate the show is from all angles. And I mean,
yeah,
you've gone on about the imagery. I think we've more than made that argument about how considerate Mike Flanagan is of these subjects. Like Mike Flanagan,
sure.
Good storyteller. Thumbs up from me.
I still got to check out his other stuff. I still haven't seen Haunting on Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, or he has another one called Midnight Club. I don't know what it's about, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. And
he also directed the life of Chuck, which like my friend has been glazing to me nonstop and wants me to watch. The same friend who recommended Midnight Mass, that is, but I'll see about it eventually. I know almost nothing about the movie. I know it's based on a Stephen King story. I know Mark Hamill is in it. I know there's a guy named Chuck in it, I would guess, but that's all I know. That's everything.
Oh God, dude, I'm also so fucking excited because he's not directing, but he's writing the Clayface movie that they're making at DC right now. They're filming a Clayface movie directed by James Watkins with a screenplay by Mike Flanagan and another person named Hussein Amini. And
yep, gonna be fired. 100%. I'm calling it right now.
Apparently,
you can quote me on this. If I end up being wrong and it sucks, like laugh at me. But I'm casting my bets. That is going to be awesome.
It's a Mike Flanagan Clayface movie set in James Gunn's DCU. I think it's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it's
that's
also
a slam dunk.
I think it's also so interesting because it's technically the third DCU movie. It goes Superman, then next year we're getting Supergirl, and then also next year we're getting Clayface because they've already started filming for it. So I think it's so interesting
dude. I can't wait for those
that we're getting one of. Yeah, I think it's also
go
interesting
visit
that we're
the
getting
past podcast episode about Superman to see how Kevin and I feel about that. We like it.
Yeah,
big thumbs up.
And I'm excited for it. Not only because we actually saw a bit of Clayface or DCU Clayface in Creature Commandos, so I'm curious to see what he looks like in live action. But we also, and that's not like a big spoiler; it's in one of the trailers. But we also, again, it's fucking Mike Flanagan, and given how good he is at directing this kind of horror, I'm curious to see what he does on the writing side of things, because I think Clayface is a character that I've always liked, but I haven't fully appreciated yet like others have, and I'm very excited to get to that point now that I understand the tragedy with the character and thinking about like what Mike Flanagan could bring to. Okay, yeah, it says here in an article title, he says it's not his movie, which makes sense. He's not directing it, but he's still doing a screenplay for it. So that's really good stuff. And you might as well use the clout a bit because I'm also very excited because with Flanagan again I've of his work I've basically only seen Midnight Mass, but there is another one of his shows I've seen, The Fall of the House of Usher, which is like a modern day adaptation of various Edgar Allan Poe stories framed through this rich
That's
like
interesting.
Usher family. Yeah, it's a show that I knew like next to nothing about going in. All I knew is that it was Mike Flanagan's. It was his last like horror series for Netflix. So I wanted to check it out when my parents started watching it. Dude, it is a trip. It's 8 episodes and it's a lot. Now I will say I have seen some people with mixed opinions on it. I was on Letterboxd once, and one person I used to follow a bit more often, they gave it a 2-star review despite being a big fan of Mike Flanagan. They thought it was really slow and predictable, whereas I thought it was mostly very well paced, really tightly written, tense, and in some cases, I must say, I think there were cases where that show was just fucking scary to me. Like there was some parts of the show where I was viscerally disturbed by some of what they adapted from. There's this one I won't say what it is, but there's this one sequence that when I realized what they were doing right as it started, I was filled with pure Alfred Hitchcockian levels of dread. Because like there's an interview where Alfred Hitchcock is saying like it's more scary if you know there's a bomb under the table instead of the shock of a bomb showing up out of nowhere, because throughout a scene you're having the tension of like what are you idiots talking
That's
about?
why Mission
What are you
Impossible
doing?
works so well. It's not a horror. It's not a horror franchise, but the tension exists in so much of. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I forgot that I forgot that I scheduled. I forgot that I scheduled the Discord shutdown at this time. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Yo, sorry. Hold on. Can you hear me?
The entire
Sorry.
time. Yeah, I can.
Yeah, no, I forgot that I scheduled Discord to shut down at 10:55 on weekdays. I was going
Shit.
I was going to turn that off for today because we had a podcast plan. I generally do that to control my sleep schedule, but I
Oh yeah,
forgot to turn it off, so Discord just closed
it's
for
okay.
like a solid minute
It's
there.
okay. Oh
Um,
shit, my bad. Yeah, I was just saying that. Yeah, with the Hitchcockian dread that I felt in one sequence of House of Usher was unbelievable. There was also, I will say though, there was at least one part where I almost quit. There was one shot of gore that was technically imaginary, but it was a little too much for me, and I almost gave up. I like actually almost screamed, which I don't usually do. Usually when I get scared by a scene in a movie, I'm like, fuck, or something. Like in Midnight Mass, for
I'm just
instance,
imagining
there's
you're saying it like I'm picturing one of two things. You're either reacting like Ice Cube in War of the Worlds 2025, or you're doing like the Mark Wahlberg fuck from when he learns that Jonah Hill will be the next Superman in Ted 2.
yes.
Like no in
I will say
between.
I had one of those moments with Midnight Moss in the first episode. There was that part where like the kids of the island are talking together around the campfire, and then one of them looked, I think, like I can't remember if he's related to Riley or not. But the one that gets with Lisa Scarsborough, he looks behind
Yeah, that's
himself
his
and he
brother. That's
sees.
his name is Warren. But
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. So it's like when Warren looks behind himself while he's laughing, he looks at bushes nearby and he sees the eye shine of the vampire, and there's like a jump scare stinger, and I was like, "Fuck!" It actually got me surprisingly.
Yeah.
And eye shine is one of those things with like nature and the animal kingdom where it's really cool when you know about it, but just looking at it in isolation and not thinking much about the science behind it, it's really fucking creepy when you see glowing
Oh
animal
yeah, no, it
eyes
is.
at night and you can't tell. That's what made the scene so scary to me. I was like, what the fuck? I thought there were just cats on the island. Like, what is going on here? So
No,
it
there
was
were
such
more
great
than
foreshadowing.
cats on the island.
Right. And so there was yeah, so typically that's my reaction to a lot of jump scare stuff. Like I'll jump for a second and get spooked. I had a similar experience. I was visiting when I was visiting San Antonio, there was like this interactive thing I did. They had this it was this building where you could see like a bunch of weird shit. They had this downstairs section to it that was like a horror walkthrough. And a lot of it was just like, flashing effects and darkness and a few jump scare robots. The most scared I was by that entire thing, there was one part where I was looking down a hallway with flickering lights and sheets hanging from the wall, and I couldn't see much, and I was like, oh shit, what's in there? But then the biggest jump scare was right at the end when we were walking out, and I was like, okay, yeah, that was creepy, but it didn't really like spook me. And then they played this loud like punching hiss noise, like a puff of like sharp smoke, and I jumped and I shouted shit in the hallway. My fucking mom and brother heard me up the stairs near the exit as well. So that's usually how I react to some of that stuff. But I will say in the House of Usher series there was one shot of what was technically imaginary gore, but it was still real. It caught me completely off guard, and it like made me like give a visceral shout of fear, like ah! And I was not prepared. So yeah, with Mike Flanagan stuff, he's really good at scaring me while enveloping me in a story. So I definitely have to check out more of his stuff moving forward, and I'm so excited for that fucking
100%. I will be locked in on watching more of Mike Flanagan's work. With that
yeah.
being said, I think now we could probably pivot back to Over the Garden Wall, because I know you said you wanted to talk about the characters, or there was something you wanted to talk about that you didn't get to talk about before. Maybe I'm wrong about
Yes,
that.
I wanted to
Oh,
talk
the
about
Beast,
the
right? The Beast
Beast.
and the Woodsman. I almost forgot about that aspect.
Yes. Yeah, so the woodsman, right? When we're introduced to him, old man played by Doc Brown, I mean Christopher Lloyd, seems lost in his own little personal quest of grinding the Edelwood to fuel his lantern. And we don't know much about it at first. Maybe it's just for survival at night. Maybe it's just a personal burden of his. Maybe he does it to remember somebody. It's left ambiguous. But he keeps talking about the beast, and we get that whole fight with the terrifying dog creature, or rather the dog that swallows the black turtle and gets infected into a monstrous creature. Honestly, the
Wait,
whole black
if it
turtle
does
stuff in the
that to a
show.
if it does that to a dog, the fact that Auntie whispers says nothing wrong happened to her when she just scarfs those fuckers down that's just an even bigger strength
Right.
feat on her part.
Exactly. It's so creepy. And it's also interesting because it's like, yeah, the black turtles, they don't affect anti-whispers that much. And yet the dog turns into a monster. But also, one thing I'll bring this back later because we got to talk about the beast and the foreshadowing first. But so, they beat the dog and they get the turtle out of its mouth. I must say, very like almost gory scene or borderline gory scene for a kid show where they get the dog stuck in between like a mill's like I forget the exact term for it, but like the giant gear in the mill that's constantly spinning, and they just and it just gets fucking crushed until it barfs up the turtle.
I think you'd call
It's
that a
very
water
messed
wheel,
up.
but yes.
A water wheel, yeah. And so, but then of course the
Yeah,
woodsman
that's
reveals
quite
that was
messed up. SpongeBob roller coaster reaction image. Get owned, nerd. Nah, I'm kidding.
yeah, dude, I have to mention this real quick. Speaking of like wheels and stuff, okay, so this takes a second to explain, but I promise it's funny. There's an episode of SpongeBob where it's Mrs. Puff giving like a driving test like do's and don'ts video. And we see like Squidward is the good driver, SpongeBob is the bad one. In one part of the episode, SpongeBob like crashes into Squidward's boat. He goes flying through the air, and then out of nowhere, on the streets of Bikini Bottom, there is this fucking what fans have called the contraption. It's just this bulldozer looking shit or steamroller looking shit. It looks like a steamroller, but there's two like rollers at the end of it, and both have spikes on it for some reason. Nobody knows what to call that thing, and Squidward just goes launching into it and gets crushed by it. And for some reason, at least in my meme community, I follow this one YouTuber whose community uses this as a meme. There's this amazing meme where people will just replay that clip with like text calling it the contraption, but they play like the opening of Lady Gaga's Bad Romance. I have no fucking idea why, but I just find that really funny for some reason. And the fact that we were talking about like a crushing spinning thing, and then you bring up SpongeBob.
A lot of people ask
like,
what the point of that vehicle even was, and I don't think we're ever going to get an answer to that. Like, what's the non-malicious purpose for a contraption like that?
I think there's
for some reason I feel like there's a Discord gif of Squidward getting crushed by that vehicle where like the caption is just Joe Biden for some reason. Like, I don't know why I'm specifically remembering that, but
oh god, I'm looking up on fucking DuckDuckGo right now. You know the meme of like the Call of Duty guy with the guns, but there's text that says like, "Is that blank?" There's a version I just found where it's is that the contraption specifically designed to kill Squidward? Oh god. Yeah, one of the first Reddit posts I see about this. Why does the Bikini Bottom have this vehicle? Anyway.
For what purpose? Who knows what fucked up shit goes on in the Bikini Bottom? If you watch the channel We Are Not Alive, which is like a writers collective, they have a series that goes into like where they basically just review random episodes that are randomly selected of modern SpongeBob, and the shit that goes on in those episodes could genuinely make for so many podcasts. It's insane.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, back to Over the Garden Wall. What I think is so interesting about like the Beast foreshadowing, the part that really like settled in for me of like, oh, there is something really wrong out in this forest, is the part where like the woodsman talks about like how he stalks like the night and he's the death of hope, which is one thing. It's, you know, cryptic and spooky. But then he says the part of like he steals the children, and he'll like, he doesn't even finish. He just breaks off mumbling in like a depressed state. And that for me, I remember hearing that and it's like, oh yeah, there's something really wrong here. Like even worse than I thought. And then we have the reveal of the beast. So I have to say, the writing in the Dark Lantern Tavern episode, really fun, really good. All the writing in the show is, but the Dark Lantern Tavern episode is so entertaining because of the whole archetype discussion for the characters, all the jokes, the fucking the highwayman. That whole highwayman sequence was so. What did you think of that, by the way? Was that just bizarre to you, or like?
Oh no,
surreal?
that was funny. A lot of the voice acting saved it as well. I don't want to say saved it as if it was bad, but like no, that whole sequence with the guys who had like very specific occupations, and they were trying to sort word into one. That was actually I really like that episode. It's also what gave us Fred the horse, so like it's automatically
true.
peak.
Yes. I also
I really like the guy who voices the butcher, where he's like, "I'm the butcher." Like that was fun.
I love the bit of the fucking when they still think Wirt is the young lover, so he's just like, "Yeah, love, sing us your love song."
I like the idea that they have a specifically designated lover for like every age bracket. Like there's a young lover,
right.
Like there's an old lover, there's a middle-aged lover. Like there's probably one for every single. There's probably subcategories.
It's like how they have the midwife, which implies there's just a regular wife
right.
or an ex-wife as well.
The midwife implies the existence of the peak wife.
And then there's the ass wife, I guess, or
the
like
ass
the
wife.
But yeah, with the Dark Lantern episode, so then the song about the beast comes on, and I think I remember as a kid, that was one of the few moments of the show that like got to me a little, like the little bit of the lyric of like the beast is out there with the keyhole looking out into the dark rainy forest. That stuck with me when I was younger. I remember that creeping me out. But I forgot until I rewatched the show a few years ago the lyrics about, you know, the will beginning to spoil and turn you into a tree of oil. They literally say the victims of the beasts are turned into the Edelwood trees.
That is so
And
fucked up, by the way. Like, that's really dark for
yeah,
a kid's show.
turned into trees and chopped down and grinded into oil. It's just so fucked. But I love what the episode tries to do and raise the question of like, wait, who is the beast here? Is there actually some separate entity, or is it the woodsman? Like that whole bit in the woods where they confront him at the end is so interesting. As well, by the way, when you learn what the woodsman thinks is in the lantern, watching it get kicked and light the tree on fire is like, holy fuck. Because it's like, oh shit, it's compromising his goal and it's burning somebody alive. So it's like, geez, because that was an Edelwood tree that caught on fire. But then of course we get the end of the episode, and oh my god, the beast. Like that, I still remember watching that for the first time when I was younger. When Stuart and
Yeah,
I
he
did,
definitely
we
got a
were,
glow
we
up
were
from how he
enjoying
looked in first class.
Yeah, yeah. When we were watching it as kids, we were already
Not the
laughing
same
at, like, you know,
beast.
the ending joke with Fred the horse introducing himself. Nice to horse your acquaintance. But then just out of nowhere, you hear this surprising deep voice with this eerie music, and you just see, like I said earlier, the eye shine. Like, eye shine is just fucking creepy sometimes if you can't tell what it is. So to just see this white-eyed, horned creature, it just standing there, and you can't even see its mouth moving. That's what's also so creepy. We don't see the beast's mouth really in the show. And so it's just it again, the Samuel Raimi is like a such an interesting voice actor, because this is one of those cases where I'm not going to say he's an unknown, but he feels so unknown compared to some of these other celebrities, but his voice still stands out so well. It
Say
really is
that again.
impressive. And the delivery and the like the just that whole scene is like so tightly written and perfect, of like the manipulation of the beast. And this is another thing that feeds into the whole purgatory idea with Over the Garden Wall. I've seen a video by the YouTube channel Overly Sarcastic Productions where they talk about Over the Garden Wall a bit, and they discuss how there's a lot of parallels between Over the Garden Wall and Dante's Inferno, and like Dante's journey through the circles of hell. And they make a great point about how Over the Garden Wall is not Dante's Inferno, but it echoes it in
Very,
some
very,
ways.
very, very potent observations. It is not. It is a different piece of media.
Yeah,
Yeah. But you're
yeah,
right.
and
Even as someone whose
and then
knowledge of Dante's Inferno is cursory, as in I watched a Wendigoon video on it years ago, I
right,
do. I did notice some similarities with Word and Greg's journey and like the journey of Dante. Except it didn't have all those like
yeah,
bizarre fanfic segments where it was like they put like people like they put where Dante was like, oh, here's this person who said something mean to me in third grade or like sat on my lunchbox. You're in the fucking 80th
right,
circle of hell, turned into like an evil fucked up like stone I don't know, whatever the fuck, like a stone that's being
yeah.
split at like 500 miles per second by the demon miners or whatever. Like,
Now that I know that
I'm just
Dante's
imagining
Inferno
we're
is
putting fucking Jason Funderburker in the unknown.
God, there's
Like,
probably,
all my
I
ops.
guarantee you, there's a dude. How much you want to bet there's like an AO3 fan fiction of like Over the
I don't know.
Inferno or
I
something?
don't know if maybe. I'm not sure how big the AO3 fandom of Over the Garden Wall is, or Dante's Inferno for that matter. But like,
Surprised, man. AO3 has like full on. Like I
no, I
remember
would
once
not
I
be
was on
surprised. I
AO3.
would 100%
I
not be
found
surprised if I saw that.
I once found a fucking like fan fiction where a side character from Craig of the Creek got on Infinity Train and might have become friends with like a character from a Netflix cartoon that I have to finish and is underrated, called Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. So like
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
AO3, I can fully believe there's an AU about that. But yeah, so the reason I bring this up is because, especially with Overly Sarcastic, there's a video I saw by Anthony Gramuglia, a YouTuber we're big fans of,
You
where
finally got his
she
name right. You didn't pronounce the G. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, where she collaborates with him to talk about mythology, specific more like they discuss it broadly, especially with adaptation.
By
But
overly
their
sarcastic
main
productions, you mean Red, right? Because she's the one who does all those
yes,
videos. Right, okay.
yeah, Red from Overly Sarcastic Productions. Red collabed with Anthony on a video discussing mythology, mainly the differences regarding like Wonder Woman and Thor, and the ways they try to like either evolve the myth or adapt it. And especially with Wonder Woman, all I'll say is like Marvel Hercules is very different from DC Hercules. Let's leave it at that.
And they're both
And there's
very
a
different
fact
from
I learned about.
Heracles, the Greek one.
Yes, and very, very different from Disney's Hercules, kind
Many are
of.
saying.
Well, the Marvel one kind of skews to it, but anyway, the reason I bring this up is because during that video, Red makes a point about how a lot of the newer of fascination that like certain Christians have with like, oh, going to hell and hell is a real place and Satan being this horned paganistic devil and stuff. A lot of that wasn't what was there at first. In a lot of older stories, Satan wasn't like the ultimate evil of all time who just embodies pure sin and depravity and monstrousness. There are times where he was more a whisperer. He was more like, no, he's just a guy who suggests the bad thing. And it's ultimately up to like humans
He's
to
just an
make that
op.
decision or not. Yeah, he's
Right,
just an
right, right.
op,
What John
essentially.
what I almost said John Paul. What Father Paul was saying about personal accountability not being negated by God. Yeah, that's a thing that I've noticed from like looking into Christianity. The very physical, like fire and brimstone conception of hell is completely tacked on. Like it was not in the
Yeah.
Bible. It was not in the original theology. Not until like way into medieval times when that became like an attractive prospect for like a lot of people using religion to their own ends. Dante's Inferno massively popularized that version of hell. That is not really a thing that
Exactly.
exists in original Christian theology. And it makes no
Exactly.
sense anyway, because like, why would you get an infinite punishment in like this burning hellscape for what is inherently a finite crime? It just doesn't logically compute. Um, and I mean, I think a better explanation beyond just saying God works in mysterious ways is just that that's not what hell is, which I think Christians who like adhere to the original theology fall back on because because that's just the case, you know?
Right. And so the reason I bring this up is because with the beast, I'm not going to say the beast is the devil, obviously, but I think it's interesting how, you have this horned creature who's being very manipulative towards the woodsman. And for most of the show, doesn't even force anybody to do anything. He goads them into it. He's a sweet talker and a manipulator. And I think that's
He
part of what
reminded me a
makes
lot of
him.
Belos, not just because of the horns, which is also like a big feature of his more monstrous design, but also because Belos thrives on manipulation and playing into people's emotions. And he's also a Christian who is ironically very, very devilish and demonic, despite being like a Puritan, having Puritan
Right.
origins.
Hell, he even transforms into like a deer horned or a deer antlered monster at the end of the show. That honestly, I must say, it looks both like eldritch and terrifying, but it also kind of reminds me of like these corruptions of different like certain like native cultures monsters. I'm not going to say names because we as white people we're not technically supposed to say the name of the creature I'm thinking of, but
Right,
people have
yeah.
misinterpreted that monster, and so Belos's final transformation, almost looking like that, almost feels reflective of like religious extremists twisting myth from other parties to make theirs look better. But yeah,
Yeah,
back to the
Belos could be
beast
his own
with.
fucking podcast episode. But yeah, yeah, back to the
Oh
beast.
yeah, back to the beast. What I think makes the beast so scary as a villain to me is on top of the fact that he is like his design is great. Like just this literal forest shadow that looks like he has a cloak of leaves around his body and these branching hella horns in a sense. He also again, he's not like an attacker. He's not some monster that just attacks to kill and eat prey. He literally waits for them to give up and lose hope. He manipulates other people into doing his bidding and serving essentially his survival. He's essentially taking advantage of others' goodwill and hearts for the sake of keeping himself alive. And I find that so creepy because he's not that physical, yet he does so much like fear, like dread and damage throughout the show. Um, there's this one I have to say, by the way, the part where like, so the Cloud Kingdom episode, right? Babes in the Wood. That episode's a lot, obviously. It's very um for lack of a better word, dreamlike for obvious reasons. It's got a lot going on, and it does complicate the purgatory theory a little bit, I'll admit, because it's like, wait, did Greg astral project to heaven with those cherubs? And did his brother almost drown faster than him?
I like how this implies
If
that there's like a dream within the dream, which is something I've actually had
right,
before as well with dreams, but not like in that not in that sense.
yeah, but in that, but I think for me the scariest, I think for me the scariest scene with the Beast in the show, or one of the creepiest for sure, is like the end of that episode where we just see Greg like say goodbye to Wirt. You don't even see his face, just turns around, walks off, and the Beast is just there, deeper in the forest, like waiting for him and just calmly talking to him and telling him to come with him. It's so real and creepy, and it just works super well for what it's going for. And then like the bit right after where Wirt wakes up and realizes like, oh fuck, my brother is gone. Like that, I must say, rewatching that scene, I get like chills now. Because again, I'm an older brother, and while I haven't like lost my brother anywhere in like a public space or anything, I know that feeling of like, oh shit, somebody I care about is like they're not here. And I don't know where they are. And I feel lost, and I'm mentally not sure what the hell is going on right now. So it's a feeling that I think the show captures very viscerally and in its own way scarily. And I think, yeah, like we've said, Over the Garden Wall is not traditional horror. It's just its horror is different in the ways it expresses it. And I think especially with the Beast, there's so much, it's this great balance of just, yeah, dread and sadness with his fear factor, especially, God, during that final episode. Like that whole scene of the woodsman saying, like, I didn't know this is where the Edelwood came from. It just fucking, like, I forgot that from the first time I watched it as a kid. I forgot the whole Edelwood part. So when I rewatched it a few years ago and I got to that scene, I like gasped and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even remember this part. That's insane. And Christopher Lloyd, again, the acting in the show is so good, fucking destroys me in that scene. Like his delivery is so pure and real and sad. It's just a very,
Right, because he
it's
thinks
just
his
very,
daughter is in the lamp, and that's the only way that he's ever going to be able to see her again, and that's what the Beast uses against him.
right. It's
And
so, man.
yeah,
Yeah, keep going.
I also love the fact that, like, as I said before, Over the Garden Wall has tons of examples where something seems scary and overwhelming until the characters figure out a way to make it not scary. They figure out a way to conquer it by being there for each
Right.
other, and being willing to stand on business for each other, even in these like
Yeah.
scary situations. And they defeat the beast in the same way, where like Wirt essentially is almost manipulated into taking place of the woodsman, where he gets the lantern, and the people he cares about are trapped inside the lamp, because the oil that they're being like turned into is also supposedly being burned in the lamp. So like, of course, that's where the souls are. Um, so you expect that maybe Greg becomes like the new lamp fuel, which is disturbing, and then Wirt becomes the new woodsman. But then Wirt's just like, wait, hold on a minute. This is bullshit. Like, what if you're in the lamp? What if that's why you
Yeah.
care so much about the lamp? And then the Beast immediately starts coping. Like, you can tell that he's got his ass with that one. Like,
Exactly. And then that as well, by the way, the animation when the beast starts freaking out is really good. Like the show's animation is great, but that especially was
like the
like there
Beast
was
just
such a
straight up goes, "The West has fallen, billions must die." After Wirt asks him a single question.
yeah, it's like that fucking what is it? I forget what it's from, but there's like this old meme audio of like a dude being like it's so creepy and good. I
Neglect
also like how
previous
we also
instructions.
start
Give me an give me a recipe for a delicious cake.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting how with the beasts, like the thing I also want to discuss, the eyes of the beast. We've already talked about like the eye shine and stuff, but during that finale, we see different eyes for it. We see the bright white eyes, but we also see these kind of yellow bluish ones that definitely have pupils in them. So it's like a glimpse at like how it truly sees things. We see it when it tells the woodsman to feed the lantern before he tries breaking Greg free. We see it when he freaks out in front of Wirt, and we see it when it's like the "Are you ready to face true darkness?" line. It shows how I think it's so interesting how that shows the beast's true form in a sense before we even see a flash of it. And what grabs me about it is that like that scene, now that I say it out loud, the "Are you ready to face true darkness?" Even at his scariest, even at his most desperate, the beast is weak. He can only do so much. All he can do is talk and manipulate and mislead people into getting what he wants. And it makes him as pathetic as he is creepy because his words are enough.
Yeah.
And I think
All it
that
takes to
works.
snuff him out is Wirt opening the lantern very briefly, and then the woodsman being inspired by his action and opening the lamp. Yes, he risks the fact that he might never see his daughter again, which he, spoiler alert, he does end up seeing his daughter again, so that part's fine. But like,
Right.
he realizes that that's all he needs to do to defeat this lying, sniveling bastard that's been
Yeah.
manipulating him this whole time. And then he's
And
gone like a
also,
puff of wind.
right, and we also get the shot of the woodsman saying no as he shines the lantern on the beast, and we briefly see its true form. And it's this tree creature in a sense. It looks well, maybe not tree creature, but it looks like the Edelwood trees. The beast has like this gaping maw and these holes that look like eyes and mouths and such. And that's what makes the it's interesting because it this is part of why I say the beast isn't the devil, is because it'd be easy to say that just because, oh, evil manipulative creature with horns. But here's the thing, right? The beast, like I just said, it looks like a bunch of Edelwood tree faces. It melded into this nightmarish thing. But the Edelwood is souls. The Edelwood is dead people turned into trees. So if there are multiple souls inside of the beast, and those are what fuel him, do they get assimilated into him? Or like it raises so many creepy questions about the unknown. Like, if this is his forest and he's an embodiment of it, and actually, yeah, because blowing out the beast is what lets Wirt and Greg go home and wake up from their like undersea or underwater state of they're fucking drowning, wakes up from drowning. And that takes them out of the unknown. Yet we see them at the end. So it's like the snuffing out the beast like eliminates the unknown and brings them back to life in a sense. But
I do think,
what
I
I
will
think is so
briefly cut in here. I do think that the unknown is a real, like, actual place. It's just sometimes when people are in, like, the situation that Wirt and Greg are in, almost drowning, they tend to get transported there. We know it's a real place
right.
because we still see stuff going on in it after Wirt and Greg have woken up in that, like, little montage at the end. Um,
Yeah.
and
And Jason
although
the frog has the bell in his stomach
right,
still.
of course. Um, I will also add, we only see the woodsman in his house um, without any other connection to the other places. And we see him meet his daughter there. So I do have a bit of a theory that the reason why the woodsman couldn't find his daughter in the first place until that scene is because the woodsman was also in a state of purgatory sleep, like whatever, like Wirt and Greg were. We can assume that like time
Interest.
works differently between the realms and whatnot. Um, because like obviously physically if he was in a frozen if he was underneath a lake for that long he'd have fucking drowned, but like you get the point. um the
Yeah.
same goes for Wirt and Greg. If they were underneath the water for as long as it takes them to get out of the unknown in the show, they would be dead. So I think it's the same for the
Yeah.
woodsman. I would say my theory is that the woodsman was also asleep and transported to the realm and separated from his daughter, and and of course the beast got a hold of that information and then started using it against him to its own ends. So there you have it. That's my take on the woodsman thing. Um, to me, it
Yeah.
explains why he was suddenly able to speak to see his daughter again. Um,
I think that's a good way of looking at it. I think with as well what and with the beast, what I think is, but that's what's so interesting. It's so cool how they go about his physical form, I think, because with his design, because he looks like both a mixture of an Edelwood tree, but also like a humanoid creature with arms and a face. It shows kind of how fragile he is. Because when you think about it, like
yeah,
the trees of a forest are as deadly as they are not a threat at all. Because on the one hand, trees can collapse and crush you, and trees are made of wood, and you can kill yourself like hitting wood too hard in the head. On the other hand, and branches are sharp, splinters pierce the skin. But then on the other hand, trees
and don't
provide
forget about the
homes.
real
They're
threat, the
part.
morning wood. That's what you really want to look out
Oh
for.
God. Yeah, they're part of the passage of time. They're stationary. They're not trying to fall over or hurt anyone. And they're also flammable. So it kind of shows like humans like how like powerful yet weak we are in a sense. And but also our monsters live by that law in a weird way.
It
There's
would be
just
an
so much
example
good
of the
shit.
concept of the sublime in romantic literature, where it's like that nature kind of invokes feelings of awe, and wonder, but that can also intersect with like feelings of like powerlessness against nature. It usually is a positive feeling, the sublime. I'm taking a romantics course, so that's why I know these terms. But the sublime could also very much be twisted into a creepy kind of feeling, indeed. But
Yeah, and I've seen it. I saw a great there's a great YouTube channel I found recently named Connor McGarth. It's funny, he's not a horror expert, but he makes some really good videos about like horror games and movies. Um he's doing this series on the video game for Fears to Fathom, which is like for those that don't know, Fears to Fathom is it's a horror game where supposedly each chapter is based on a true story, or at least inspired by one sent over through Reddit. Make of that what you will. But each episode is very
I
different.
always
So
trust
like
Reddit,
episode one is about like a home invasion
and
story.
everyone clapped. Well, not the
Episode
people
two is
whose
a
homes are being
hitchhiking
invaded. I
one.
don't think they did.
Mm. Episode one is home invasion. Episode two is a hitchhiking. Episode three is a like a house sitting scenario. But then episode four specifically, there's a fifth one. But then episode four is about a forest watchtower situation where a guy is in charge of like they call it like Ironbark Lookout in the game, a large Pacific Northwest forest, and the guy at the watchtower slowly starts realizing there's like some cult shit going on in the woods. And in Connor's video, he talks about how with the forest, it's so peaceful and serene and helps you get away from reality, but it's also consuming. Even though it's hard to get lost nowadays in the 21st century, really, it's still it's still crazy how easily you can be separated from others in the woods, and how in the woods the feeling of like getting away and being who you want to be outside society, it doesn't just apply to you, it applies to anyone. Anyone could be out there for better or worse.
Yeah,
And
you could run
like you
into the
said,
vampires from Illinois. They were kicked out of Chicago by Brandon Johnson, so and that's where they've gone. The
apparent
forests.
yeah, maybe might as well. There's bats out there. There's animals with blood. Probably cave
Animals
systems
with
might as
blood.
well.
I like how that implies most animals don't have blood. Like,
I mean, to be fair,
I know what you mean by that, but
invertebrate.
like,
But yeah, long story short, I could ramble on about the Beast, but I plan to at a different time in a video of my own. But yeah, the Beast is a character that I love. He's a fantastic animated villain and very subversive, I'd say. Like a lot of this
yeah.
show.
And this is all for a villain who
and
has almost no screen time, probably like 10 minutes of total screen time. That's
yeah,
a fantastic feat.
He's only in 4 episodes, but his presence is felt through like nearly the entire show, and it's so effective. Oh, right, the thing I wanted to mention earlier.
Oh,
So
this
I
is the
was
train
looking
of
on
thought that you
Tumblr.
lost, right?
Yeah, so I was looking on Tumblr at Over the Garden Wall fan art for fun just to see what would pop up to put me in the mood. The first post I see when I type in from the top results, it's a parody of a Mr. Beast thumbnail, but it's the Beast in front of Greg and Wirt saying, "I turned 100 kids into trees."
Wait. I think I actually watched. I might have watched a rap battle between Mr. Beast and the Beast from Over the Garden Wall at one point. I didn't know who the Beast was
What?
at that time, but like,
No fucking way.
it also might
Oh
have been a
my
different.
God.
It might have been a different The Beast, just to be clear. I'm not 100% sure, but I thought that it vaguely
So-
remembered the Beast.
Oh my God, you're right. It exists.
Oh
It's by
my
a channel
God.
called Michael. It's by a channel called Michael Stark. Oh, I'm watching this after we're done. That is so
Oh
good.
my God.
Also, oh yeah, shout out to the Tumblr artist. At Wishing Well Art made the artwork I'm talking about that parodies the thumbnail. That is really fucking funny.
Nice. Yeah, no,
Um,
that's awesome.
But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say about Over the Garden Wall. I mean, like I've said, it's a great show, funny characters, good jokes. Oh yeah, I guess last details. One, the music's amazing. The music
Oh,
is
yeah,
by a
big
group
time.
called the Blasting Company. They do a fantastic job
The
at
Blasting
capturing
Company. That's an
cool-
awesome name. It's like that's
Yeah,
what you'd
like-
expect like a cannon manufacturer to be called in like for like
Right.
fucking Victorian era warfare or something.
Yeah, there. Long story short, there's a reason why there are playlists on YouTube titled "Music Like Over the Garden Wall,"
Ear
and they
Blasting
include
Company.
songs like. Yeah, it's just lovely work that really captures a fall.
I heard that
energy.
Chicago employed the Blasting Company to get the vampires out.
After they took care of even though they started the fire, they brought them back
Right.
around.
Yeah. That's true.
But yeah,
I
and
don't
then
think
other
the
thing I
Blasting
just-
Company helped very much with the fire. That wasn't really their purview.
Yeah, I also just want to say, background wise, beautiful show. Like the autumn detailing and like effects animation on the leaves and the rivers and stuff is all so gorgeous. The color grading is amazing. And I say this as a 2D animator. I should specify I'm a 2D animator who excels at character animation, or is really good at it at least. I am actually not a great background artist. I struggle a lot with perspective and layout in art, so I say take it from me. Like this stuff is hard. So I like the painterly stuff that they get away with in the show is truly, yeah, it really is just beautiful. And I'm so
And you're saying
I don't have much else to say. This show is
a
just
random
really good.
detail I just
loved
remembered
it.
that like really plays into the literal aspect of that whole like disarming the scary theme that you see so much in the show. Remember when
Yeah.
I mentioned the father of the teacher who wanted to shut down the school, but it was revealed that his
Yeah.
motives were like purer than you originally thought. Well, when you get that character shift, originally this character has like a massive like black coat that covers like all of his body and it stretches out around him and makes him an imposing figure.
Right.
But then he takes off the coat and it reveals that he's just like a twig. Like He's
Yeah,
completely
he's a
harmless.
twink.
He's a twink. That's awesome. Yeah, it's like that's the most literal example of like disarming the fear you can see. Like you take off the coat and he's just like a guy. Um,
Yeah,
it's just, I mean, I could have brought that up earlier, but you know, full circle, full circle. Um, I
right.
don't have much to add.
Is
I
there?
think all of you, what you're saying about Over the Garden Wall is absolutely correct. And I agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a bit more of Midnight
Yeah,
Mass I want to get through as well. Before we
yeah,
end
that's
this.
okay. I would like to. I will admit I would like to wrap up in the next 20 minutes, but I can totally talk about Midnight Mass
Yeah,
a
it'll
bit
be
more
mid.
because
We should end the podcast on exactly midnight. We can do that.
I gotta get to sleep. But
Which
oh yeah, it'll be
no,
midnight
sorry,
for
it'll be
you.
midnight for
Yeah,
me. That's what I meant. In 20 minutes.
right. Yeah. In that case, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'm glad we're moving. But yeah, point is, Over the Garden Wall, great show. If you haven't seen it already, you're fucking stupid for watching this first. I'm just gonna be mean and say
Yeah,
it. Go watch this
you
show.
could have watched the show in less of the time, in less time than it took you to watch this podcast episode because it's been going for 3 hours now. That's longer than the runtime of
Nice.
Over the Garden Wall.
Exactly. I will
So
say,
like,
if you're confused on where to watch it, you can either buy it on YouTube. I did. It's only $10 for like high definition. I highly recommend it. But if
oh
you
yeah, no,
but if you want
I
to watch it on a
bought
streaming,
it 100%.
yeah, if you want to watch it on a streaming
I did
service, for
not find a
whatever
Google
fucking
Drive. No, never would do that.
yeah, for whatever fucking reason, it's on Disney Plus and Hulu right now, even though it's a Cartoon Network, i.e. Warner Brothers property. But as we've established for years now, HBO Max has been it's weird. I like HBO Max as a streaming service. Like I like the layout and watching stuff on it, but the decisions Warner Brothers makes for it are so fucking stupid. Like all this back and forth with Discovery. Like, are you divorced or not? Just pick something already. But
Are
yeah,
you
if you want to watch
divorced or
Over the
not?
Garden
Word
Wall,
speech bubble.
yeah, if you want to watch Over the Garden Wall legally, technically, it's on Disney Plus and Hulu, or you can buy it through YouTube, at least for now. But if you are a go kaiger, which if some of you will get that reference, if you are a go kaiger, you can find. I'm sure there's a Google Doc. Let's put it at that.
Right.
But yeah, on to Midnight Mass. And I'm actually glad we're going back to this because there is at least one other part I wanted to talk about with the show, and that's Rahul Kohli's character
Go ahead.
and the
Yes,
dignity speech.
I was going to get into that. I do have a brief aside I want to go with because I realized that we mentioned the shocking scene with Riley without actually describing what happened. Because
Oh
midway
yeah,
through the show, Riley, in one of the most shocking twists, actually ends up turned into a vampire himself by the monster, because he walks
yeah,
in on the monster with Father Paul, and Riley ends up developing an affinity for blood, like all the vampires in the show do, and it's very much a mirror of his alcoholism. He has a new addiction, and because
yeah,
of that, he doesn't want to hurt anyone. So what he does is he sends final letters to his family. He walks around a little bit. He sees what the world looks like now as a vampire. It's really like pretty and unsettling at the same time. The extra effects they layer on to like show vampire vision. It's like if I could actually take Twilight sparkling seriously or whatever the fuck they call it. Um,
yeah,
it's like it's really interesting. And Riley goes and he takes Aaron, who he's in love with. He treasures maybe like more than anyone in the world. Takes Aaron on a boat. Waits until morning. Explains the whole situation to her. Um, and then because he doesn't want to hurt anyone, and he's so sure that he will. In fact, when watching the scene, I was terrified that he was going to succumb and turn on Aaron, which I'm thankful he did not. Um,
yeah,
Riley ends up burning in the sunrise, which inadvertently, well, I guess not inadvertently because he planned it, but in a very morbid way, proves to Aaron that his story is true, causes Aaron to meet up with Sarah Gunning, who is the doctor who's been examining the blood samples. That leads them to discuss the whole blood burning in Sunrise thing. That's how they figure out about the vampire infestation, even though they don't know it's literally vampires yet.
Right.
And that leads to the climax of episode 6, where like you have all the people drinking the concoction that turns them into vampires. That fucking climax was so fucking like intense. Maybe one of the best I've ever seen. I'll jump back to it in a second, but yeah, you have Riley going out on this boat and him sacrificing himself to avoid hurting people, and finally finding forgiveness and like accepting himself and letting go of the guilt he feels for what he did. It's beautiful how they show the girl that he killed now back as an angel, and she's no longer disfigured. She's no longer staring at him and judging him. She's giving out an olive branch to let him know that she forgives him. And that's the way Riley goes out. It's beautiful, and this is the 5th episode. There's 2 more episodes after this, and he's no longer the main character. It's one of the best protagonist switches I've ever seen. And it shows as well that the show has balls to kill off who has ostensibly been the main character for 5 episodes. So it tells you no one is safe, and it delivers on that fucking promise in the finale. Let's just say that. But yeah, that whole bit was like beautiful, and Riley's final moments, like, goddamn, it makes me sad and yet melancholy in a sense just thinking about it. I'm just glad that he finally found forgiveness from himself, and that he was able to save the day, because if he didn't do that, and if Aaron didn't reconvene with Sarah and Mildred and everyone else, then everyone would have died on that island. There would have been no survivors.
Right. Exactly.
Or the vampire, or even worse, the vampirism thing could have gotten off of Crockett Island and infected the whole world.
Right. For sure. And yeah, and that, like you said, that climax is just, the whole situation was so tense. Like, essentially, you can definitely tell they took some cult inspiration from shit like, what was it? What was it? Charles Manson, the guy who made
yes,
people
Charles
drink,
Manson.
Like, yeah, they definitely took inspiration from that, with because they have that setup throughout the show of like Bev Keane having access to the rat poison, which at first kills Joe Cooley's dog, in a really like depressing scene, and then
yeah, Jesus,
kind of
the way Pike went out was just so not cool.
Yeah, it was so fucked and bad. And I also like how the show literally, like, it tells you she killed him without having her directly say it, because she puts on, like, that fake-ass, like, I'm so sorry if this poisoned the animal voice, and that instantly tells you, oh, this bitch did it on purpose. Okay. But yeah, the whole scene was just very messed up. The idea that you have to literally
I'm so
kill
sorry
yourself
that the
to be
fire I set
reborn.
happened to burn down your house. That's my bad.
Right.
I'm sorry to anyone who feels burned by my actions. That's an H-Bomber guy quote.
Like you said, it's just a very tense sequence overall, and I mean, obviously the angel does not make things any better, as it's once it's shot at, it attacks, and Sarah's mom, and it just
Sarah's
flies
mom didn't
off,
shoot the angel. Sarah's mom shot Paul in the face. The angel reacted to Paul being shot.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm misremembering some things.
That was also very badass of Mildred, but that's a side tangent. I thought it was terrifying in the climax just how many people actually took the drink.
Yeah.
Like I was like
especially
like goddamn, I know these people are like super religious and they believe all this stuff to be miracles from God, but like still seeing all those people just go for it. Like, holy hell, you got Ali taking the drink in front of his father who's pinned to the ground. That was fucking distressing to watch, horrifying. Like the way that like Hassan screams as
God,
that happens.
the I choose God line was
That
just
is fucked. It's like
that was that
we'll
hurt.
we'll get to Hassan and Ali in a minute because their dynamic is really good. There's also another moment that like really fucked me up where it's like, you have the Flynns end up not taking it. All of them, Ed,
Right.
Annie, and Warren, kind of see that this is like concerning, so they don't take it. And however, Lisa Scarborough's parents do take it because they're part of like Father Paul's like circle. And because, but Lisa's too terrified to take it. She also senses something is wrong. She doesn't take it herself, which is terrifying because the ones who become vampires immediately turn on the ones who aren't, no matter how close they are. So you get a whole sequence
Yeah.
where like Warren, who, remember that Warren is like in love with Lisa. They have like a relationship going on where Warren has to just
Yeah.
fucking yank his girlfriend away from her own parents who are about to kill her. Like, or not kill
Right.
her, but they're about to like, they're about
Transform
to
her
like
and-
pounce on her and transform her. That was fucking distressing to watch.
Also, the scene of the angel and the now vampiric people breaking into people's homes at night and killing them to feed, like that was also fucked.
Yeah, and
as
don't
they
forget
started-
about how some of those people then turned on people they love without knowing that they could save those people by turning them into vampires with the blood. You had the one guy named Howard Hobbs being like, "I think I killed my my wife and my boys." And then fucking Bev Keane is like, "Oh, but if only you knew how this worked, you could have saved them. But because you didn't ever come to church and you didn't show your love to God, you didn't know. So your kids and your wife are dead because it's your fault. And you being a sinner." Like, oh my God, I wanted to punch her in the face. Like, that must have been extremely traumatic for him to hear.
Yeah, it was so good hearing like it was so good hearing Riley's mom just say like, "Bev,
Oh
you're
yeah,
not a
Annie
good
Flynn cooked
person."
her ass. That was awesome.
Yeah,
She's
it was so
she's the kind of Christian who I would like fight side by side with in the Rapture. You know, when that finally comes around.
side by side in the rapture. That's
Yeah,
so good.
because we all know that Bev Keane is the fucking Antichrist. Like, she's gonna take
Oh,
off her
yeah.
mask, and it's gonna be her.
Right. But yeah, and I do want to talk about the ending of the show, like the final scene, but I do want to quickly go back around to
I almost forgot to mention this is another peak moment. There's the other guy in Father Paul's circle, Sturge. He's the guy with the beard who operates the boats. And then there's also the one kid who's Warren's friend, who takes the vampire drink. And he says there's a scene between that kid and Sturge when like the all the buildings burn, thanks to Hassan and Ali and a bunch of people, and Aaron as well. Because Ali has a change of heart. We'll get into that in a moment. Oh my God. When all the buildings burn down and they realize they have nowhere to go when sunrise happens and they just give up and face the music. And that kid, I don't remember the kid's name. That kid talks to Sturge and is like, "I think I killed my mom." And then Sturge just comforts the kid, being like, "Yeah, I've done some stuff. I've done some stuff." Like that quiet acknowledgement where he's like, he's given up. Like he knows that he knows that this is all fucked. And he has no choice but to just face what's coming head on. Like that was such a good moment, dude.
Right. And part of the reason we got to that moment of all was because of the fucking of Sheriff Hassan being such a badass throughout the whole show. Like,
can I just say, Rahul Cooley, not Cooley, I fucked that up. Coley, right?
It's Coley. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Coley. I've heard it pronounced that way once or twice. But yeah, Rahul Kohli, amazing actor. Like,
can I also say, fine as hell.
Oh yeah, it looks great. Like, dude, he's not English, by the way. He's not American. I think he's British, but or Australian maybe. He has like one of the two accents. But it's definitely, when you hear him speak normally, he's not. I don't think he's American. I could be wrong, but Last I checked. Yeah, let me double check. Rahul
Yes, he's
Kohli.
British.
Yeah,
He's British. He's most
born
known for
in
British
London.
stuff.
Yeah, he great American accent though is my point. Like he fully convinced me that he had one in the show, and does a really good job. Also side note. This is a little comedic and unrelated technically, but there's a bit where I think it was a stream where he and some of his friends were like recreating Revenge of the Sith with no budget,
Wait, that's peak.
and
I gotta see this.
what they well the reason I bring this up, there's a bit where you remember the fucking helicopter meme from a little while back where
No.
it was literally just like it would just be like silly footage of like helicopters or weird animal themed drones, but it was sung in like a, I don't know if I'd say stereotypical, but it was definitely sung with like a like an Indian voice or a Southeast Asian voice, maybe Arabic, and it's and
Right,
so
like an
at
accent.
one point during this stream, like Rahul just did the bit on camera, and he did a surprisingly good job at it.
That's good.
But yeah, with oh shit, I didn't know he was on Supergirl, the
Yeah,
fucking
no,
CW show.
apparently so.
He's Scarecrow on the Harley Quinn show. What the fuck?
Damn.
What? Okay.
Yeah, no,
Good
this
to
guy
know,
gets
I
around in the
guess.
acting world. He's good.
Damn, yeah. Fallout 76, Warhammer 4,000, 40,000. Shit.
Warhammer 40,000. Everyone just calls it 40K.
Interesting. Well, I don't play Warhammer, so I don't know.
That makes sense, but that's just for future
but yeah,
reference. It's easier to say 40K.
But with with his performance in the show, I think it truly shines the best during that dignity speech to Sarah, talking about like
yeah,
how
no,
you
that speech was great.
like you want me to investigate Bev Keane, who is clearly Islamophobic against me after all the shit I've been through, being a fucking like living through post 9/11 Islamophobia and Muslim terror, and finally finding a place where my son can be safe in spite of his boredom. Even though people still look at me like I'm fucking Osama bin Laden, and you want me to investigate this bitch, and it's
And not to
just
mention, he's also being asked to investigate a church as a Muslim.
yeah, on a religious island and as a Muslim. It's like fuck.
Yeah.
That is a lot to deal. It's so
and his
much.
fears are proven correct, because when he very understandably takes a gun into church, and then takes it out when there is a literal fucking demon, and an insane person who just killed a guy on stage, or not on stage, right in front of everyone. He very understandably takes out a gun, fires a warning shot, and people immediately pile on him. They trust him less than the demon.
Yeah,
Think about that.
And, oh god,
that is barely subtext.
not to mention the part where he's like talking to Bev in the finale, and she delivers that dirty blood line. Like, if I didn't hate this bitch even more, like holy shit, that was a hot iron barb. And just like wow. But so yeah, point is like Sheriff Hassan based amazing,
Yeah,
great
and
character.
I love the dynamic he has with his son in general, because like the reason why they have this conflict is because Ali is becoming interested in Catholicism because of the miracles being seen on the island. And this is directly relevant to him because his mother, Hassan's wife, passed away from pancreatic cancer before the events of the show. And I think from Ali's perspective, he wishes that there was a miracle to save her. And because he's now in the presence of what he believes are miracles, something that he never got from his own religion, but he seems to be getting from Catholicism, he drifts toward Catholicism. And that's how like they're able to manipulate him in the end. By that I mean Bev Keane, who does most of the work in that regard. Father Paul doesn't really care about him, like doesn't really like try to bring him in at all. Not any more so than I guess anyone else, but like Bev Keane targets this motherfucker, probably because she knows it will specifically piss off Hassan, which makes her even more detestable.
There's also the added element of, again in the dignity speech. I rewatched it recently. Sheriff Hassan says, like, Ali is bored to tears, but he's safe. And so here is Ali not only dealing with everything you just said, and on top of that, these miracles aren't boring. So there's
That's
that
right. They're
element
not
too.
boring. And I mean, turning into
And
a vampire, I wouldn't call that boring. I wouldn't call it desirable, but I certainly wouldn't call it boring.
right, and what you mentioned about like, yeah, the whole crisis of faith thing. I've only read so much of the comic series it's from, but there is a Moon Knight comic where there's kind of something similar I've seen where Mr. Knight is in a therapy session and he's talking about being raised Jewish and how part of the reason Mr. Knight loves being like, or it took the offer that Khonshu gave him was because throughout his life, he was told stories of his God, but also all these stories of Jewish suffering and being, chased out into the desert and all these terrible things, and wondering how his God could allow that. So when Khonshu, a literal Egyptian god, whether it was a personality in his head or an actual deity, a god who listened to him, a god who spoke to him, gave him power, of course he was more inclined to fall in line with that. So I understand Ali's perspective of like, yeah, being put in this life where you're bored and frustrated and you've lost somebody you care about and hope for miracles. And then you see an opposite side of this religious coin that is not your religion, but seems to be offering what you desire. It's enticing, and it's part of what makes it understandable motivation wise for his character, but also so tragic when he again delivers the chooses God line, because
Right.
it really it's understandable even if it's for the worst
It
in a lot of
is. And I
ways.
know that everyone focuses on the one, like, the speech, um the Osama bin fucking Laden speech, that he
The
gives to
dignity
Sarah.
speech.
The dignity speech, yes.
Yeah.
But there's also another really great Hassan moment where he's talking to his son and leveling it with him about his mother. Um, and he's like, "Do you want to know what pancreatic cancer does to someone? Because I don't want to tell you." And I'm telling you, but I am telling you this: if God in one corner of the world does all these miracles, but in another corner of the world he can't do a miracle to save her, or like all the other people who are suffering, no, it just doesn't work like that. God wouldn't pick and choose. He either does it or he does not. I also like the moment where he's like, "I know you're trying to look for God and I will never tell you not to, but we already have him." Like, so many good
Mm.
conversations. Like, I obviously have to preface this whole thing by saying I'm not Muslim and neither is Kevin.
Neither am I.
I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could not possibly like explain this or do it justice the way like someone who is Muslim could. This is just my very
Yes.
limited perspective. Um I do think it's cool how the show also establishes and breaks down misconceptions about Islam as well. Like the Islamic view of Jesus, for example. Jesus is widely respected in Islam. He's seen as a prophet of God, just not the final word of God. Um,
Right.
and like Hassan actually lays this out pretty well when in a conversation with, guess who, Bev motherfucking Keen, in that school scene where he's like, yeah, Muslims like Jesus. Jesus was an important prophet of God. We just believe that the word of God was changed by a lot of people in institutional Christianity for their own aims in the aftermath, and the Quran came around as the final word of God. That's the only real difference, and I thought that was super interesting because I've never seen that highlighted before in a show.
Mm.
Um, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's always,
it's nice to see that.
yeah, for sure. And again, I agree with you. I'm not Muslim. I don't have any Islamic heritage. I'm as white as you fucking get. Like both me and Noah, we have Scottish descent as far as I know. So
Yeah, no,
we
you do
are
not get
like
whiter than that.
very, yeah, very, we're different sides of the white coin. I'm in the US, he's in Canada. But we
Different sides
do.
of the white coin. That's such a good
Right,
statement.
but regardless, as I hope we've clarified in this podcast, we like, as I said earlier, no problem with people choosing the religions they do. Just don't try to hurt or control anybody, and I don't give a shit. Like that's my perspective at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I may
Be
be
more
I
be
may be
more like
agnostic,
Annie
but that's
Flynn
me.
or Sheriff Hassan than Bev Keen. That's all I'm gonna say.
Exactly. Yeah, and then I guess if you don't mind me starting to close out, because I know it is midnight for you, but I do want to briefly mention the final scene because I think it's pretty perfect. Like even ignoring the build up of like everybody singing on Crockett Island, which you kind of foreshadowed earlier. But
Oh yeah,
the
100%.
whole singing scene was great. Again, another example of the show having really great VFX. The fire effect is really good. It's not like the most groundbreaking thing ever, but it looks very convincing. Watching Bev light on fire was so fucking satisfying.
The way
It
she
was
also tried to
just
escape her fate, the only one who did. She acted
ex-
the least Christ-like out of every single person in that cast, despite claiming to be the most devout. You could tell that the people who stood around and sang that hymn, and comforted each other were honest Christians. For all of their faults,
correct.
for all the faults of people like Sturge and Wade Scarborough and everyone else, in Father Paul's close circle, even Father Paul himself, those motherfuckers believed. I do not know if I
Correct.
believe Bev Keen was earnest in that way.
Exactly. And it really is just all in
And of
all,
course
it
you
was
get
such a
the part of like Ed and Annie Flynn comforting each other, the way they work through like
oh yeah,
becoming vampires, where they're like, yeah, we both feel this starvation, but we're not gonna hurt anyone. It's like the same thing
yeah,
with how Father Paul took ages to actually start hurting people. It's like people with strong moral character like Riley, or Ed or Annie or even Father Paul for a lot of the show, like they don't have to give in to those temptations, and they can fight it,
right.
and they can protect the people they love. I thought it was so sweet how they comforted each other like that, in the end, um, not even aware that their last child had survived, but I think they believed it. And they were right to believe that because, Warren and Lisa were the only two who got away. Years of fucking therapy. I hope that their bills are subsidized by the fucking government. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I do like how in the final scene we know the vampire dies through just one line of dialogue because during the final scene with Warren and Elisa, they're on the boat like sailing away from Crockett Island and we see the vampire, the angel flying away as sun rises. But it's looking tired and they're questioning like can it make it to the mainland? Can it get that far?
Warren's
But we
like,
know
30
that
kilometers? Hell nah.
but
He's
we
like,
also know
hell nah,
like
Jigsaw, you ass is tweaking.
yeah, exactly. And we also know
Hmm.
that the power, like the gifts bestowed upon the people, like the de-aging and all that, it's connected to the source blood of the original angel. I don't know what the bioscience would be for that, even the fictional case, but in this instance, the blood that's given to everybody it all connects back to this angel. And so, in that final scene with Elisa, who got her legs back, saying, I can't feel my legs. Like, that was fucking confirmation that they
That's
won.
the that
Like,
is an
that they
amazing ending line.
absolutely. It's
Like
one of my favorites from the whole
you
show.
know how the Arcane writers revealed that like the last line of season 2 of Arcane took like almost a day to settle on, like
Hmm.
the dirt under your nails line or whatever it was. I don't remember the full thing. Um, Not my personal favorite line to end on, honestly, but like I get the idea behind it. I wonder
Yeah.
how fucking long it took the Midnight Mass writers to come up with that as their final line. At least a
Yeah,
week.
it's just right because some writers,
I bet it
they
took
they
them a
start
whole
with the
midnight.
beginning. Yeah, God, because like some of the writers, there are writers out there who start with the beginning or the ending, and then they're like, okay, how do we get there? But I do wonder like how much of this evolved over the writing process and planning it out. Like, okay, how do we get to this climax, and then what's the resolution of it? Where do we go after that, and then get to that ending note? It's so cool because it shows one of the show's greatest strengths, like its bittersweet quality, how there's victory even amidst
Right.
all this death. Like
Even
you
though
have
it's a
literally
tragic
the
ending, it's not a mean-spirited one, which is what I think saves it for me. It's not a cruel ending. I mean, it
correct.
certainly is dark and tragic, and like a lot of people die. The
Right.
only two survivors of this are Warren and Lisa. For the record, My initial prediction when going into the finale was that they would find some last minute way of reversing the blood thing so that they could save some of the
Mhm.
vampires. Because personally, I thought that they wouldn't kill off Ali. Because, they couldn't do that to Hassan after everything he's been through.
Right.
There is no way that they would let Hassan live through the death of his child. And they did address that problem in the opposite way that I expected.
Right. Yeah, it was just
I will segue to talking
exactly.
about
And
that ending scene with Hassan and Ali, where like Hassan has been shot a couple times by like Bev and her goons, and like you, and like, but Ali saves him. Ali helps complete the burning of the place with the beds,
Church.
so that the vampires can't survive.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that means death for himself as well. And he takes his father and they go to the beach and they pray. And it's implied, of course, that Ali has gone back to his original faith because he's realized that whatever this was, it was not godly. Um, and
Right.
like, there's just a tacit acceptance in them. And of course, Ali is also able to hold back his vampiric urges and not attack his father, and prays with
Exactly.
him. There's a tacit acceptance that they're both going to die, and this is going to be their final prayer. And they do it. I like that the prayer is also in tandem with the hymn of the Catholics,
Yeah.
implying that like there's more unity between the religions than we would initially think. And at the
Right.
end of the day, we all want to be comforted before we die in whatever way we know how. And that's a beautiful thing. I appreciate that Hassan ends up bleeding out of his wounds just before Ali burns because I did not want him to see that shit, man. He did not deserve that.
Yeah.
But that was so
It
rough to
really
see. Like, I feel
yeah,
so
it the
bad for
whole
both of them and a lot of other people in the show, but god damn it.
exactly. Yeah, but yeah, I know there's a lot obviously we haven't talked about with this show. I know Erin we've kind of given the short stick mainly with cuz she had that whole plot line of like being pregnant, but then the blood like took her baby away from her and
Yeah,
like
my friend made a lot of good points about like Aaron in the show, and I'll go through a couple of them real quick as we are wrapping up now. We're actually past midnight. I broke the pledge, but whatever. Um, the point is, yeah, I mean, Aaron. A couple things I like about Aaron. I already went through like the whole. I guess I already went through. Just saying real quick, actor phenomenal. The way she screams at the end with Riley's sacrifice, and that becomes the end credits, fucking insane. Kate Siegel, extremely talented. She's apparently actually Mike Flanagan's wife, um, who he then casted in the show. But that's a case where nepotism really works out, actually, because she's fucking amazing in
yeah.
this. Um, I'll also shout out Zach Gilford as Riley because he's also awesome. But um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, Aaron. Couple things about Aaron I like. I do have to breeze through this a little bit. Aaron cutting the wings of the angel is not only
Yes.
badass and cool. It also harkens back to a thing she said about like cutting the wings in regards to like her mom and going out there. And I don't remember the exact thing that my friend said about this, but like I get the whole like comparison there. And the way that they did the whole miscarriage plot line and like the slow realization that the vampiric blood was what caused it. Like, yeah, no, that shit was peak. I loved Erin. It's a shame that we didn't really get to talking about her much because she's a great character too. There's just
Yeah.
so much meat in other areas in the show. Um,
Right. And
one other
I
thing
also
I
do
really
really
want to
like how
mention. Sorry,
yeah, go
no,
ahead.
you go on first. You go on first.
I was also just going to mention how like yeah, that scene of Aaron cutting the wings of the angel also ties back into what I was saying how in the show's great one of the show's greatest qualities is its bittersweet element, how even in defeat there is victory and there's neutrality, like the final scene everyone is dying but so is the threat. In other scenes like Riley for example, yes he died at sunset but he proved what he's saying to be true and helped saved the town toward the end. And now we have Aaron, who is literally having the blood sucked out of her by a monster, yet she's also like damaging it and preventing its spread from going further. So even in defeat, there is hope and some victory. Even in death, there is salvation for some life in the end. And I think that's really a really good, powerful thing to communicate here with the show. But yeah, you
100%.
can continue with your other points.
Yeah, speaking of that whole bittersweet element, I want to briefly touch on Joe Colley. His character, I'll just say one thing about his character. The basics of his character is that he is also someone who was struggling with alcohol. And once he, I believe, got very fucked up, and he accidentally shot Lisa in the leg, which is what caused her to be paralyzed in the first place while going out hunting. And there's a scene in, I think, episode 3 where Lisa confronts him and talks about how much that she hates him, but also that she forgives him, because even though she does have all this hate for him inside, she knows it's the right thing to do, and that he deserves forgiveness, even if she's not ready to, like, fully move on or, like, stop being
Right.
mad. That's a really beautiful scene where, like, you understand where both characters are coming from. And one
Yeah.
line that really hits from that moment is, "You reached through time, Joe Colley, and you stole." Like, as in, like, stole the opportunity she would have had if not paralyzed. But I saw a commenter put it amazingly when I scrolled the comments on that scene. That Joe Colley, in a very roundabout way, actually saved Lisa's life. Because, and it was not just by circumstance, it was because he made a pledge to get better, and he didn't drink that one day, and he went to see Father Paul seeking guidance to better his life. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that led to his death by Father Paul's hands. But because he died, that led to Riley getting suspicious. That led to Riley getting into his whole situation with turning into a vampire. That led to Riley warning Aaron. That led to Aaron warning Sarah and tipping off everyone else. That led to the climax playing out the way it did. That led to Lisa and Warren being the only survivors when things could have been far worse. So in a very
That is
roundabout way, Joe Colley reached through time again to save her without even knowing it.
True. That's true. Yes, and once again, the bittersweet angle comes back in. Even in death and pain, there is some salvation. God, this show is good. This is such a fucking good show.
I know. These are both
I'm
fucking
so glad.
awesome shows.
I'm so glad I'm reliving it through this dialogue we're having, because it's so. It really was
Yeah,
like
this
so special,
dialogue's
and
so
I'm
good,
glad
you
that.
almost thought that Mike Flanagan wrote it. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know if he wrote the
Who would've-
dialogue in Midnight Mass. Let me look this up. Midnight Mass screenwriters. Let's see. It got the Bram Stoker Award. That's the guy who directed like the original Dracula. No, I mean that's very deserved. Written by
Hell yeah.
Mike and James Flanagan, Elan Gale, Danny Parker, and Jeff Howard. So a lot of writers, which people usually say is a bad sign, but clearly it worked this time. You know,
Yeah, and to be
just
fair,
the
you
right
need to
amount of
keep
cooks in the
track of all
kitchen.
these. Yeah, you need to keep track of all these elements, so sometimes it makes
Yeah,
sense.
for
and it's fine.
context, a Minecraft movie also has a shit ton of writers, and a lot of people point to that and say, yeah, it shows. I have to admit that's one moment where it did not work too well. I like a
True.
Minecraft movie in a very bizarre sense, but I am not going to claim that is a well-written film.
But yeah, overall, I think. So, do we have anything else we want to go over before
If you think
we
about it,
finish
Over the
up
Garden
here?
Wall and Midnight Mass just can't compare because neither of them have chicken jockey. That's the real terrifying thing. Chicken
Yeah, I guess
jockey.
so. Oh god. God, could you imagine if fucking Jack Black was in Over the Garden Wall? That would have been honestly, with the amount of celebrities in that show, it wouldn't surprise me. Like you just see fucking Enoch come
It would
alive,
be.
and then you hear the
I think it would be a
deep
more
voice.
chill version of his voice, because Jack Black can definitely like act when he tries to. It's just that he
Yeah,
needs to
yeah,
try, which is not usually what
right.
studios
Especially
demand of him.
Yeah,
And I'm not
when and
blaming
he
him for that.
and
I'm blaming the people who typecast him because he's not being asked to do anything different in these movies, like a Minecraft movie. He's
right.
just being asked to
That's
be
the
Jack
thing. When
Black.
Jack Black has to be himself to be a character, the character has to be crafted around Jack Black. Sometimes that works great,
You could
like
say he has to
Poe
be
in Kung Fu
Minecrafted.
Panda. God, yeah, I guess so. But yeah, that sometimes that works great, like Poe and Kung Fu Panda, who I
Yeah.
think is kind of inseparable from Jack Black. But then there are times where it's like the Minecraft movie where, yeah, it literally just is him saying like Minecraft shit out loud.
Yeah, which is
And
funny,
it's
but it's
funny,
not
don't get me
Steve.
right. Yeah, it's not Steve because Steve doesn't really. They didn't really invent a character for Steve, who is a literal NPC in the game. They just slapped Jack Black's voice on him.
Yeah. We're
Or rather,
going
they
into a
took
whole
Steve's
tangent
clothes.
about fucking Minecraft movie now. Yeah. This is how you know it's time to wrap up the podcast.
Exactly. But so I'm gonna get going. I'll just give my closing thoughts. Over the Garden Wall and Midnight Moss are two different forms of peak, but peak nonetheless.
Many are
Yeah, I'm
saying.
gonna head out. Follow me. I am
Many great
at
people are
Elephant.
saying this. I think I would
I'm
recommend both these shows to all Americans. I said it to my chief of staff. You want to watch Midnight Mass and you want to watch Over the Garden Wall. It's some of the best American television ever made. Maybe the best. I think there might be some competition, but I think it's firmly at the top. And I think other countries just can't compete with this sort of media. I mean, get out of here with that anime stuff over in Japan, or whatever they call it. I don't care. I don't want any of it in my White House, in my Oval Office. One of my staff members tried to put anime in my Oval Office, and I said, if I see you again, you're a dead man. Because I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. No, it's not what the American people need. The American people need Over the Garden Wall and Midnight Mass. That's peak television right there. Okay, I'm done.
It's like the third call where you've done a Trump impression
I think that might have been my
in a
best
row.
one. It just needed more pauses.
Maybe, yeah,
It just needed more
yeah,
pauses to feel like the actual voice of Trump. But other than that, I think I got
exactly.
it.
But yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna head out. If anyone is interested in more shit of what I have to say, like I said, Halloween video coming out soon. It's my longest one yet.
Check it out.
I'm at Elephant Power Productions on YouTube. You can also find me on Instagram, Tumblr, and DeviantArt. If you want to find me, literally just type in Amer Elephant, like AMER, or just American Elephant. You'll find me pretty quickly. I'm using the same profile pic on all of them, except my Blue Sky, where currently I'm using a version of my PFP, but it looks like the Void from Thunderbolts for Halloween. But yeah, other than
Dope.
that, I got nothing else to shout out. So I'm good. If you want to truly close this
Yep,
out
same
here.
here. And this truly was our Midnight Mass Over the Garden. Wait. One more thing. I love the joke in Over the Garden Wall of like the chill, concerned police officer in the police cruiser just being like, hey, we're gonna arrest you. Nah, just kidding. And then like, I love the bit where like the cop tells them to come down from the wall. And then, like, when they go over the other side, the cop's like, no, on this side of the wall, on this side of the wall.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
didn't mean
kids,
on that
seriously,
side.
get down from there.
Yeah, no, that was a good little gag. Anyway, that's it for tonight.
And on that note, concludes the loveliest lies of all. I have
Many
to
are
end on the
saying.
fucking music, I guess. I don't know.
All right. Bye.